Folks, welcome to the May briefing of your Louisville Town Council. Glad you could be with us tonight, council members, staff. Good to see you all. We have a packed agenda this evening. We do have some additions. Let me go ahead and dispense with the roll call first before we start doing a little business. Mr. Smitherman.
Good evening.
Ms. Foster.
Good evening.
Mr. Franklin.
Good evening, everyone.
Ms. Hunt.
Happy Thursday.
Dr. Sadler.
Present.
Very good. The mayor's here, and hopefully Ms. Walsh will be joining us shortly. Folks, we have a couple of additions. I think Joyce maybe sent out a late agenda to you, but if you didn't get it, under our items that require council direction, we're adding C, which is Ed Smith has requested to be reappointed to our Tribe Municipal ABC Board. By the way, we just received our first quarter check from them in the amount of $147,000, $47,000 and some change. So that keeps us up around that $180,000 a year that we get through our municipal board. The second item that we're going to add under items requiring council direction is we have a request from Lynn Fulton to be appointed to the Zoning Board of Adjustments. If you'll remember, Lynn had applied for a planning board post and was not successful there, but would like to be considered for Zoning Board of Adjustments. So we'll talk about those when we come down to them. Mr. Moser would like his item under 4D, and this is the stormwater detention system at the annex. We talked about that briefly. He'd like that moved up as the first item under 3A, actually above 3A. And the reason being Jeff Carpenter, who is with IVAC, and I know that stands for something, who's our retention cell expert, is present, and we may have some questions that Ryan may not be as knowledgeable to answer as Jeff would be, so he would like to move that item up there. We're also going to add under 4, we're going to add F, which is awarding a contract to Hills Paving, and and then G, which is approving a 3-year lease for our telephone services. So if you happen to follow all that without a program and are still with us, those are the proposed changes for the agenda tonight. Ms. Walker, has there been anything else? Did I get them all covered?
Yes, you did. And unfortunately, I think I got them all.
Very good. Yes, Fred.
I just have a question. Do we, on our agenda, need to have something about a potential for closed session?
I believe, Fred, there is. Let me go back.
Just help me. Okay, I see.
Yeah, we have it as it's 9B, which is a closed session discussion this evening on a matter of real estate.
Yeah, I guess where I always get confused is the agenda for the hold on a minute. The tentative agenda for next week, and then I always get confused there because that's afterwards. I guess is what I'm sorry. I'm saying. I just want to make sure we had that on the agenda for tonight.
It is.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Sure, absolutely. With that, council members, any additions or other questions about the agenda? If not, we'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Looks like Mr. Smitherman had his hand up first, but I'll give Mr. Franklin the second on that. Any further discussion? Mr. Smitherman. Mr. Smitherman.
I pushed the wrong button.
Okay, very good. And you moved all over my screen. You've changed my order now, David. Ms. Foster.
Aye.
Mr. Franklin.
Aye.
Ms. Hunt.
Aye.
Dr. Sadler.
Aye.
And if I've got everybody, the mayor's aye, and that's our agenda for this evening. Ryan, do you want to go ahead and introduce your guest for this evening? I'm guessing he does. His mouth is moving.
Can't hear you, Ryan.
There we go.
Sorry. I see Jeff now. We have Jeff Carpenter with IVAC. Jeff, can you unmute yourself and introduce yourself?
Sorry, I had to unmute. I'm not used to Zoom. We do Teams.
thank you for letting me have a little bit of your time. My name is Jeff Carpenter. I'm with Industrial Vacuum Services in the Carolinas. We do industrial vacuuming and do a lot of underground detention systems. And Ryan approached me several months ago to come look at your specific system, which is a StormTech, and it has several cells in it. We had a hard time with it. Since that time, we have went to the Trine International Center and cleaned 11 different StormTech systems, and have now kind of sort of mastered them, but there's no really master. It's just a time-consuming thing to clean the StormTech systems.
Very good. Mr. Carpenter, that may be the shortest presentation on record for the Louisville Town Council, but if you'll stick by.
I'm not trying to be real short. I don't have a big presentation, sir.
No, that's okay. We're just fooling with you a little bit. However, if you would stay with us, please, we've moved
Yes, sir.
our discussion of the stormwater detention system up to the next item of business. And Ryan, if you want to go ahead and walk us through that, and if we have any questions, we can certainly address them to you, Mr. Carpenter, if that's okay.
No problem. I'm sorry, sir, if I jumped the gun.
That's okay.
You're fine. So guys, we have, like he was saying, the Coltech system that's behind the annex. There's an accessibility problem. And like Jeff was saying, he has gone in to another facility and has cleaned out 11 systems similar to this. They attempted to clean it out initially. They just could not safely do it. He feels now that he can come back and can do this system the way it should be done. So we initially had, and Pam, do you mind pulling up spreadsheet?
Yeah. Hey, can I share my screen?
Yes, you can.
Okay. Can everybody see my screen?
You make it just a little bigger,
Make it
Pam, if you
bigger.
would.
You know, I don't know how to make it bigger. Hank, how do you make a PDF bigger?
You don't have what I have on there. Look, maybe.
Try to right click and see if it gives you any options to zoom.
Yeah.
Right click and scroll. Right click, press control and then scroll and make it bigger.
Or either that and the plus sign. There you go.
Oh, there we go. Oops. Is that better for everybody?
Perfect, perfect.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Sadler.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
So as you can see, back in November, you all approved $16,300 to clean the system out. Got in there, couldn't do what we needed to do. They did do some cleaning. They did some, there was a lot of cleaning outside the system that had to be done. So we made payments for $8,820. As you can see, there's $7,480 left in that contract. IVAC is saying that they can fully clean out the system for $18,500. So we would need, am I reading that right? So we would need $11,020 to finish this project. Does anybody have any questions?
I've got a question just in general. How many vendors are around who do this sort of work?
I had a hard time finding anybody that did this type of work. I know, Jeff, you're the contractor, but can you answer that question?
Yeah, there's other companies that have, the ability to clean them. I don't know anybody that is specializing in them specifically, but there are some other people that have some experience with it. But it's like a different animal. Each one of those systems is different, especially the ones that didn't have access points, such as yours.
And Mr. Sadler, when I did get another quote initially, and I don't have it in front of me, but it was in the $40,000 range to clean that system out. And I feel certain that he would have come in, run into the same problem as this gentleman. There's no access. We don't have, it's so old that unfortunately, we don't have blueprints for the way it was designed. And I don't think it was really the best design. Are there any other questions?
I've got one.
Okay.
And this is more toward the contractor and you too also, Ryan,
Okay.
because I know you're going to bring something about paving around the annex area. but the correlation between what this guy's going to do, and I'd like to know what this company is, how they're going to access them. I agree there's not readily available access. I'd just like to have an idea of what's going on.
Well, as far as the paving goes, we are not paving. We're only paving the front parking lot and around the side and up to where this system is. We're not paving over that system.
But my question is, are they going to have to dig out holes to gain access to be able to do this project of cleaning the stormwater system?
They're not at this point. I think,
Okay.
and Jeff may speak to this. I think what we need to do in the future is put in some manholes so we can actually get into the system. Jeff, can you speak to that?
Yeah, Ryan. Basically what we're gonna have to do is there's a 10-inch access point at each one of those. So there's 10-inch holes that are in line with each subcell of the main trunk line of the storm system. So we're gonna go in with the vacuum truck and we're gonna go in and we're gonna vacuum out all the water out because the water will not drain out. It's meant to hold water continuously. It does not have, it has weep holes in it, but it has dirt in it, so it's not working well. So we'll vacuum out all the liquids out of each port. At that point in time, I'm going to stick a pole camera down with a 360-degree view, and I'm going to be able to look down and see left, right, front, back, and inspect the system and what it's got. If there's a lot of mud in that section, we'll stick the hose back in there, and we'll vacuum all that mud out. We may induce some water to do so. We have a jet truck that puts water in it. And then when that area is clean, we will stick a 4-inch tank truck hose, is what they use for petroleum products, and we'll take it down to the bottom. We do not have a sweep such as a clean out, and we'll create a sweep so we can send our jet truck down that section and clean that mud back to us and vacuum it out. And then we'll go back in with the pole camera and inspect it. And once it's clean, it meets DWQ's requirements for the EPA as far as the dirt, which is usually about 6 inches to the bottom. Then we'll say that's clean and we'll move down to the next section. You have 10 sections. And that is the process that we have to do for this specific storm system.
But Fred, in answer to your question originally, no one's going to go down into the system physically. We're just going to access it through the pipes.
And I recognize that now, that when the contractor said they were 10-inch openings, and I, realized how it's going to happen. I just was concerned about folks going down into a confined space.
Yes, sir.
And if we put manholes, then we will need to be concerned with that in the future.
If I may interject, we are confined space entry trained and certified, and we have the gear. We do confined space entry almost daily, so that would not be an issue for us. We could also assist the town if need be in helping some of your staff get trained.
That sounds great. And I'm a safety professional by trade. Thank you, contractor.
No problem. Thank you very much for your time.
Just one other question, just so I'm clear, because I don't remember with exact clarity. The presentation we received when we approved this contract originally, I thought there were some diagrams or something presented as to the current system and how it's constructed. Am I remembering that right?
Unfortunately, go ahead, Jeff.
I mean, that is correct. We do have some, Louisville did provide us with some kind of schematics and drawings, as built, some pictures, and me and Ryan kind of put something together and tried to figure it out, but there's no real diagram of what's exactly into the ground in that system behind the town hall.
That's fine, for us to approve it, any additional money for this, at least in my view, for residents, we have to be clear about where the gaps were in the quote process. And I guess what you all are saying is that there were unknowns, there were unknowable unknowns. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, there are.
Yes, correct.
Jeff, will you working with Ryan and as you're working through this process, will you, as maybe one of your products of this process, can you give us revised drawings of what this thing is for the future?
We can try to do it as best as we can. I have a gentleman that was up there for 3 months at the Trine Center, and he's kind of like my mud dog, so to speak, excuse the language, but that's, he's a mutter. And he's very intelligent, and with the pole camera, still pictures and estimation with the jet hose, we could come close to figuring it out, but exactly knowing what it is, I couldn't tell you if it's a 32 or 38 inch pipe with the type of equipment I can get down in that access point.
Okay.
But you will be able to tell us what you did and why you did it, right?
Yes, sir. We can take before and after photos for sure. Yes, sir. And give those to Ryan and let Mr. Moser have those.
Thanks.
Mr. Franklin.
Yeah, Mayor, you and Ken and I have been around, I think, in the era that this stormwater management system was put in underground. And part of the reason was to support the future building of the library at that time and the future town hall and things. And if my recollection serves me correct, it was about $250,000 at the time, way back when. And that was a big ticket item for the town of Louisville, but it was one of those that needed to be done. And my point, that I'll try to be brief here, is that this total cost to service this structure, which has served us for a number of years, it's about 10% of it, of the original cost. And if you don't service it at a long-term interval and do it properly, then you're not maintaining a structure that was built many years ago. So that's my argument.
Yeah, well, that's a good point, Fred. Jeff, while I got you on here, what kind of interval do you think we should be cleaning this thing out? I mean, obviously it shouldn't be 20 years.
No, most people are, looking at the new EPA guidelines and the mandates that, it's got to be inspected annually. Basically, what I'm trying to come up with is an effective cost mechanism to come back and do an annual inspection. And I don't know exactly what that cost to be because it's kind of, not got to that point yet. But, basically I would have it inspected, and when it's inspected, you have to trust the professional that inspects it, whether or not it needs to be cleaned, and, provide pictures, photographs, and verifications if it does need to be cleaned.
Great. Anything else for Ryan or Mr. Carpenter? Mr. Carpenter, thank you for being with us. I understand you're on vacation. So thank you for taking time out of your vacation to be with us and answer questions that we have. And we'll move on to the actual appropriations of this money. If you'd like to stick with us and see how we vote to approve the money, you're welcome to. But otherwise, please go back to your vacation. Enjoy yourself. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your time. Y'all be blessed. Please stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Very good. Pam, we do have two ordinances. We have an ordinance and resolution. Do you want to walk us through those, and we'll take them one at a time?
Sure. We have ordinance 2021-025. This is to amend budget ordinance 2020-001 in the amount of $11,020. This is to increase the budget for the contract with Industrial Vacuum Services to clean out the storm detention center at the annex.
Very good. This is to increase the contract. Council members, any questions? We'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Mr. Frankel makes the motion. Pam, will you stop your screen share, please?
Oh, certainly.
Thank you.
Second, Mayor.
I think Ms. Hunt makes the second. Any further discussion? Ms. Foster,
Aye.
Mr. Franklin,
Aye.
Ms. Hunt,
Aye.
Dr. Sadler,
Aye.
Mr. Smitherman,
Aye.
Ms. Welch, welcome.
Thank you. I finally had some success. Aye.
Well, okay, very good. The mayor's aye, that's unanimous. Pam, you now have the resolution that we have to pass.
Yes, resolution 2021-032. This is to award the contract to Industrial Vacuum Services in the amount of $18,500.
Any questions for Pam? Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Dr. Sadler makes the motion. Mr. Smitherman makes the second. Any further discussion? Ms. Foster,
Aye.
Mr. Franklin,
Aye.
Ms. Hunt,
Aye.
Dr. Sadler,
Aye.
Mr. Smitherman,
Aye.
Ms. Welch.
Aye.
Mayor's aye, that's unanimous. Thank you very much. We now move back up to the top of our agenda again, and this is A, our original A, which is we're amending Chapter 17 of our town code relating to junked and abandoned hazardous motor vehicles. Hank?
Okay, guys, let me see if I can start by sharing the appropriate information. Not that. Okay, now. Okay. In case anybody needs anything for reference, this is our current, as it exists right now, Chapter 17 for the removal and disposition of abandoned nuisance and motor vehicles. What we have before you this evening and what you were sent out is this provision. I am going to reduce the size overall. Get up to the top of this thing. All right. We sent this out, I think it was around the 28th of last month, in order to allow the town council to be able to compare what is different about this proposed ordinance for junk and abandoned vehicles and nuisance vehicles from what we have currently on the books. We did this mainly because we had a previous request under our nuisance ordinance that we amended and replaced last month. Has anybody have any questions directly about what was sent to you?
Hank, I did have a couple of additions and I'm having trouble finding them now. I've made some notes in that file and I'm not finding them, so I apologize. This is not an action item tonight.
No, this is just for your information to be able to present this to you, get feedback from you, and then if we're ready to proceed, we'd have it for you for approval for next week.
Very good. I think there was some language about right-of-ways in there that I was looking at that if it's okay, I'll bring those forward next week. Mr. Smithman.
I just had one comment when it starts talking about the vehicles in the right of way or either vehicles that are being parked. I just want to make sure that the wording in this does not go against any of the town's ordinances or programs that we have in place as far as parking goes.
Yeah, no, Mr. Smitherman, as it relates to the right of way, I think I can point to what you're probably thinking about is under abandoned vehicles. It's right here in front of us. And then you got the definition of an abandoned motor vehicle is a motor vehicle which, and then it goes through four things that make it an abandoned motor vehicle. A motor vehicle that has been left upon a street or highway in violation of the law or an ordinance prohibiting parking. That would be if it was in a no parking zone. It had been designated no parking. Is it's left on property owned or operated by the town for longer than 24 hours. That would be, say, it was in a, if we wanted to press it, if it was in the parking lot behind town hall or the new community center or things of that nature. If it was left on private property without the consent of the owner, occupant, or leasee thereof for longer than 2 hours. And if you've read the email, there's more provisions in here for details on here that doesn't necessarily make it the town's responsibility to have that car towed. That is more for the property, the private property concern. And then lastly, is left on any public street or highway for longer than 7 days, or is determined by law enforcement to be a hazard to the motoring public. In most cases, when you have this, you've got somebody that has got a car it's truly been abandoned. Most people are going to drive a car within a week. And if something's left out there, we're going to investigate it, figure out why it's out there and, what the plans are from it. As you're going to see, and if you've probably read this ordinance is set up that is if it is on town property or public property or rights of way, our sheriff's deputies will handle the notice and then removal, that kind of thing. If it is on private property, that is going to be the town manager or his designee. So that's probably what you're considering with is an abandoned vehicle. And correct me if I've not got the right area for you.
No, you did. I just wanted to make sure there wouldn't be an overlap with any of our parking. ordinances that we have in.
No, I mean, we've got prohibited parking in areas in which it's signed off and designated for not parking. Otherwise, people can park, say, on the shoulder of the road in Arbor Run, for instance, even if you've got curb and gutter. The only thing that that prohibits you from parking is if you've done so in a manner that creates a safety hazard for emergency services vehicles, gets in the way of garbage trucks, utility trucks. A lot of times, say for instance, in a lot of our streets that have curb and gutter, the presence of a car parked on the side of the road in and of itself doesn't present a parking violation, because you could get an emergency vehicle down the street, or you could get two cars passed beside it and not be impacted by trying to pass each other on a 2-lane road. But if, for instance, if somebody was to park a car directly on the other side of the street, then those two cars have created a problem where it would be a prohibited parking issue, because while one car wasn't a problem, the two cars have choked the street down to a point where you might not be able to get a fire truck down that street in the event that there was an emergency.
Thank you, Hank.
You're welcome.
David, thank you for bringing this up, because this is one of the ones that I had highlighted on my copy. So if I read number 4 correctly, Hank, somebody who has let's just say a trailer that they haul things around in, they can park it on the right of way, right up next to the road, and they can leave it there for 7 days.
I don't think a trailer fits the definition for motor vehicle. And we took the motor vehicle, and this is kind of supported by general statute. Let me see if I can find the definition for motor vehicle.
Yeah, because I think there's one specific issue on one specific instance I'm thinking about where there has been a trailer parked within 6 inches of the roadway in the right of way, and it has been left there for extended periods of time.
Okay, motor vehicle or vehicle, all machines designed or intended to travel over land by self-propulsion or while attached to any self-propelled vehicle. So yes, it could be a vehicle.
So
because
we're basically,
by nature of the fact that it overland by self-propulsion or while attached to any self-propelled vehicle.
so basically we're saying it's okay to park your trailer in the right of way for 7 days.
7 days or less.
Okay. Council members, I think I have some issues with that, because we've seen some instances in particular where that has been abused. They've turned the right of way into their own parking space for their work vehicles and their work trailers. And the way I read this is you can park there for 7 days. And then if you move it, you're not in violation, but you bring it back again and you park it and you can leave it there for 7 days. So I'd like us to look, if I'm the only one I hope I'm not the only one that's concerned about the language of this, because it doesn't really address one of the key issues that we've been kind of plagued with in one instance.
The only thing, Mayor, I would want to caution people to, and we need to look this up, is the definitions that we've given you for junk, abandoned, and hazardous vehicles are for the most part supported verbatim by general statute. The definitions have been prescribed to us by North Carolina general statutes. So if that provision for 7 days is in general statute, that may be the way it has to go.
If we can research out, that'd be great, Hank, because the way this is written, it doesn't address the issue that I think we have a whole neighborhood that's concerned about it.
Right.
Question, Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
To just, I guess, clarify your point. So item 4 says, or is determined by law enforcement to be a hazard to the motoring public. So on day 1 of that being there, it could be determined by law enforcement to be a hazard to the motoring public, and therefore that would be room to have it be removed, is my read of that. You're wanting that tighter?
Yeah, I think in this particular instance, the trailer has been parked there for a number of days. The hazard is determined by visibility within it. You have to be able to see the vehicle or the trailer within 250 feet. So if you can see it within 250 feet, then law enforcement would not determine that it was a hazard, which is kind of interesting. But that's kind of how our deputies have approached this so far. So what I'm suggesting is that it may be we want to tighten that down, because conceivably, I guess, Ms. Foster, conceivably somebody could meet that 250 feet either direction on a roadway, but still, in our mind, be parking their trailer in the right of way.
I just looked it up, Mayor. 7 days is prescribed in general statute.
And we are bound to follow that?
Well, I would imagine you couldn't go any shorter.
If we can get, if we can get an opinion, that'd be great, Hank. So just, I don't want to belabor it tonight, but if we can just get an opinion and earmark that for next week.
Okay.
Mr. Smitherman.
I would suggest if we have to stay with that terminology, then we turn it into the amount of times that it's inflicted. Like if it's 7 and we have to do 7, but if they've been reported of doing it more than once or twice, then you can tighten it down.
Mr. Franklin.
Yes, I need to get a little clarification here. Does this ordinance apply to state maintained roads as far as if something is at the white line on the right edge and maybe sticking the foot over it? And
yes, it does. Well, I'm not sure about the second part. It does address both municipal and state roads.
It does. Okay, I want to clarify that. It does address state maintained roads.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Council members, anything else?
If I could go through some points that I'd like to give and give a suggestion that after further study on this, Mayor, if I could get a couple of minutes for it.
Absolutely.
One thing to consider, approved motor vehicle cover. I just want to bring this up in case see how council feels about it. We define this as a ready fit cover made expressly for motor vehicles, which will resist decay, mildew, and ultraviolet sunlight. In a lot of ordinances like this, you'll see this defined in as something as simple as a tarp in good repair. Do we want to end up specifying this to be a ready fit cover, or just considered leaving this as a tarp? This thing, a car with this would have to be placed in the backyard of a vehicle or otherwise of a home, or otherwise concealed by view. If you can't see it from the public rights of way or the neighboring property, you might even be able to get by without covering it. But if the vehicle is in the rear yard and it can be seen, then it needs to be covered. My question to you is to think about whether or not you want to go all the way to a ready fit cover you might buy at an auto parts store, or just cover it with a tarp. Moving down a little further,
Do you want feedback on that now, Hank?
If you've got it now, yes.
Council members?
I could speak to that.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, in fact, we have a sailboat we're wanting to sell and have a tarp over it. It doesn't really keep the wind and water out, but it, of course, is more expensive if you have one that's fitted. So I don't know if that's too much to ask, that someone has to pay the extra, but just a tarp does not fit well with the weather.
Okay. Anyone else?
What's the goal?
The goal here, and maybe here's the second part I was going to get into. What you got in the on the 28th, if you look at it under junk motor vehicle regulated that I've got before you, down on I guess there's 4 of 10 that's at the top of the page. If you look at the language here just below that, under page 5 below, originally there is some language in there and it's marked yellow and it's not hashed out. It starts off, after finding in writing that the aesthetic benefits of removing the vehicle, and it goes all the way down through 1 through 5. In the draft that was sent to you, we thought it best to eliminate any kind of talk about aesthetic benefits. But then as I was thinking about this, I was wondering why this was in the ordinance, and I had seen it in other such ordinances from other jurisdictions, is that if you look at the definition of a junk motor vehicle, see if I can find that one. All right, here's key to why I think we should keep the aesthetic benefits in there as far as the determination as to the removal of it. It gets into the definition for junk vehicle. As authorized and defined by 168 303.2 of the general statutes, the term junk motor vehicle means a vehicle that does not display a current license plate upon the vehicle, and that, and then these next three are ors, they're not ands. If you look at it on number 2, well, of course, number 1 is partially dismantled or wrecked. Okay, no plate, and it's been dismantled or wrecked. Number 2, cannot be self-propelled or moved in a manner in which it is originally or intended to be moved. And then, or the last one, is more than 5 years old and appears to be worth less than $500. Now, here's my point in wanting to keep something that allows some measure of making a determination about aesthetic value. What is the point in removing a junk vehicle that is not in the backyard or forcing it to be in the backyard? Obviously, it gets into whether or not it is a nuisance, and that, as this language is talking about the protection of property values, promotion of tourism and economic development opportunities, indirect protection of public health and safety, preservation of character and integrity of the community, promotion and comfort, happiness, and emotional stability. You get back to what I was just discussing. If you've got a car that has transmission issues, or for some reason it does not go down the road because it's inoperable, and you've left the plate expire on the truck or the vehicle, and it's sitting in your front driveway for it. But otherwise, looking at this vehicle, it is not detracting or creating a problem from any of your neighboring properties. It's just a car that otherwise is just sitting in a driveway, and it looks as if it was intended to look. It's a motor vehicle. What we don't need to get into is people running around basically pointing fingers at neighbors because they have a car that has an expired plate that doesn't happen to be operational, but for all intents and purposes is not creating a problem, because otherwise it doesn't look like it's been in a wreck. It's not a breeding ground for rats and vermin as a hazardous vehicle. It's just a car that sits there. It doesn't operate and doesn't have a plate. So in this language, whoever goes out and says, okay, I've had a junk vehicle that's been given to me to look at, you have to find in writing that there are aesthetic benefits in removing the vehicle that outweigh the burdens imposed on the private property owner. Such findings shall be based on the balancing of monetary loss and apparent owner against the corresponding gain to the public by promoting the enhanced community, neighborhood, and appearance. It's like if you're going to make somebody get rid of a car that, if I've got a 19 or 2005 Jeep and it's sitting out in the driveway and it's not been dismantled, it's not been wrecked, all the tires are in good shape, it's not hurting anybody. And for me or anybody to go out there and tell somebody to remove it or have it towed out, is that outweighing any kind of benefit that you're giving to any of the surrounding public? You get where I'm going with this? Now, if the thing's been had a sledgehammer taken to the front glass and it's been had all its tires done, then it's taking away, it's causing damage, or it's causing a problem for neighboring properties. But otherwise, if a vehicle is sitting there looking as it's intended to look, then it's not created a problem, and whoever is making this determination can make the judgment that you have to say that I'm saying this car needs to be removed because the benefits of having it removed outweigh any kind of expense or burden that you're placing on the owner of the vehicle.
I kind of fell by the wayside on that one, Hank. To be honest.
Trying to figure out another way to do. Have I lost everybody on that one?
Yeah, I have a question.
No, I'm still connected.
Okay.
Hank,
Yes, ma'am.
are you saying that what you have there, because this all started with you looking for feedback from us. Are you
Right.
saying that what you have there and pulled up on the screen is what you're recommending?
This is what I'm recommending. What I
Okay.
sent you out, I removed it.
Okay,
Now, but I thought better about it, because if you didn't do that,
got it.
anybody had something that had a plate that wasn't in effect or valid, and it had a mechanical problem where you couldn't get it rolling, propelled. But otherwise, if you look at this vehicle, and unless you knew that it had mechanical problems, it's just a car sitting in a driveway.
So you're just wanting to make sure we know that what you sent out to us, you've had some second thoughts. And
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think we should have to be in the position to start making a case where you're going to cause someone to have to remove or go through a lot of pain and expense removing a vehicle when it's not hurting anything.
How about if it's in the backyard?
If it's in the backyard, if somebody pressed it, it would be, put a cover over it.
Okay.
But I can tell you one thing, if I had a car in my neighborhood and it was sitting in my driveway, it would not get someone's attention nearly as fast as if I had an otherwise decent looking, normal looking car and I pulled it around in my backyard and it's sitting in the middle of my grass in my backyard.
Let's give this one some thought between now and next week, folks.
I just want to make sure everybody's understanding where I'm coming from with wanting to keep it. I think that having to make this finding means that whoever is going out and doing the investigation has some leeway and protection against somebody who may be making an accusation of a junk motor vehicle for a reason other than feeling like they were damaged or there was a problem with it being there.
Was it removed in the first place because somebody suggested it, or you just thought?
No, I just didn't. I got it. It looked a little funny with the word aesthetic and it being a subjective term. But after reading it in some other jurisdictions ordinance and seeing it being a common finding that you have to have, that's why I've chosen and reconsidered having it stay in the ordinance.
Okay, so nobody on the council asked you to remove it?
No, sir.
Okay.
All right, moving on. We had our prior ordinance that it spelled out in long form for Forsyth County Sheriff's Office or town manager or his or her designee. Us working with Bo, we just decided to shorten that to authorized official pursuant to 17.4, which then defines who's after it. So just shorten that up. And there are appeals that go before the town council. And that is the same as in our current ordinance. In fact, our current ordinance may call it for the ZBOA. Joyce, am I correct on that one?
Current ordinance calls for the town council, and that was in green.
Oh, okay. It's currently
Ask
in
town
there.
council if they wanted it or not.
Okay.
Quick question right here
Yes.
for you, Hank. When it allows for appeals, is that the appeals of a property owner or a renter?
I think that's the could be both. Whoever's owning that vehicle, if I've ordered them to remove that vehicle, they could appeal that removal.
The owner of the vehicle or
Bo, how do we spoke to this a little bit about the potential for having an occupant of a piece of property, or was that a different matter?
Yeah, that I think the occupant of that may be, well, the occupant of a piece of property, we talk about that was the abandoned vehicle situation with the 2-day thing. What we don't have in there and what we could conceivably put in there is, I don't think it's expressly in there. I think that appeals provision talks about the owner or person possessing the vehicle that's been determined.
Yeah.
But what if, I think Mr. Franklin's question is, what happens if it's a vehicle and it has not been determined?
Well, here's looking back on it too. If we look at 17.8A, it kind of talks about which vehicles and how you make that determination. An abandoned, hazardous, or junk vehicle which is to be removed shall be towed only after notice to the registered owner or person entitled to possession of the vehicle. In the case of a hazardous vehicle or a junk motor vehicle, if the names on the mailing addresses of the registered owner or person entitled to possession of the vehicle or the owner, leasee, or occupant of the real property upon which the vehicle is located can be ascertained in the exercise of reasonable diligence, shall be notified in a given, shall be given first-class mail. I think that whoever has the right to appeal is determined by this first paragraph and who is being researched.
Okay.
I
Well,
guess the question is, what if the designee determines that this is, the aesthetic situation, the balance goes the way in favor of someone when there's been someone's
Well,
made a
that's, I think you're making even a better case now on why we need to have something like we were talking about earlier for making a determination on aesthetic benefits.
Right, but we just need to have excuse me for the term, vehicle for allowing an appeal by somebody who doesn't, says, I thought the aesthetic benefits would be outweighed by removing the vehicle.
And I guess that what comes, if it comes down to that, then the town council makes that determination. They listen to whoever has made the determination of the removal. They have to listen to whoever who wants to appeal that and listen to the arguments.
Yeah, and I guess we just need to scoot down to that and see who can do the appeal. And
right,
in B, it says the owner of the property.
Oh, yeah.
And saying, and you could probably add some language you just said, or any person aggrieved, and then they can make the appeal. If somebody makes a complaint and we say, no, that's not a violation, they could appeal it. And I don't think we have that in there right now. That was
well, the first part has to do with the idea for 17.8 is the determination of removal has been made. So you wouldn't have somebody that may have been complaining about a vehicle that's going to come and want to appeal your decision to have that vehicle removed.
Oh, because the appeals once the determination's been
right.
made.
I said that I've said that car needs to go. Someone's going to appeal it. You're not going to have somebody that's asked the car to be investigated that's going to appeal the removal.
Right. I guess what I think I may have heard Mr. Franklin asking was, what happens if someone complains about a vehicle and the determination is made that it's not in violation? Do they have a mechanism for appeal?
Well, not in this ordinance.
Not in this ordinance.
that wasn't what I asked. I
Oh,
was
I
asking
apologize.
about the property owner having an appeal if there was some action that was, I mean, there's an absentee property owner in this particular case, or excuse me, in a potential case.
Yeah. It's whoever has received that notice, Fred. That's what it has said in that B for appeals.
Okay, thank you. I support the ordinance. I want you to know.
Okay.
But, all right.
Hank,
didn't
anything
mean-
else on this?
Didn't mean to get us all
So
over.
can I ask a question again, Hank?
Yes,
And that is, if in case council missed what Hank was asking, do you still want to get the appeal, or do you think it should go to zoning board of adjustment as it is in some of the other towns?
Why
Council
would,
members, should it come to us or go to zoning board of adjustments?
so you're saying that in other towns, other like towns, it goes to their ZBOA.
I don't know how often that is, Jean Marie, but I have seen some where the ZBOA.
So why wouldn't it go to our ZBOA as
Well,
opposed
our current ordinance says the town council does it.
to, okay.
Well, I would think that we ought to go to the zoning board of adjustment with this.
Okay.
I mean, that's what they're there for, is quasi judicial.
Mhm.
And it's about ordinances and things for mobile homes and, you know, that type of stuff. That's what they're there for.
Agreed with that. Everybody good with that?
I'm in agreement.
Okay.
Yeah. Perfect.
And then the last part, it has to do with the legalese about how the car is going to be dealt with after it's been towed and the rights of the people to get it back and how that works.
Great. Hank, I think we've got a couple of things we want to clear up, particularly when it has to do with, I think Mr. Smithen and I both had questions about vehicles or vehicles or other trailers or whatever parked in right of way. So we'll research that one out.
Okay.
Is that something we can potentially have done by our meeting next week?
If you're just talking about the questions regarding trailers and vehicles as it defines an abandoned in public rights of way for periods of time, I think we can.
Yeah, not necessarily abandoned, but just parked.
Well, we're already covered with rights of way in vehicle.
Except we've got that 7-day limitation in there.
Well, that's the part of about abandoned vehicles.
Okay. Yeah, let's maybe, I don't want to take any more time tonight in flushing it out, but maybe we can get together and I can go back through where I had that question and we can just kind of bring that back up to the council next week.
Okay.
Very good. Council members, this needs our direction. Do we want to put this on our agenda next week to consider? Mr. Smitherman is a yes. Very good.
Does it get it resolving the issues that are before us?
It's a good run at it, Dr. Sadler. I think the big one is the one that really is left unresolved in my mind is, can an individual park a commercial trailer, even though it's licensed? Can they park it in the right of way just off the highway? And that's the one that I want to try to drill down on a little bit.
In a public right of way.
In a public right of way, yes.
That's violating no other ordinance.
Yeah.
And we may be able to address that through some other mechanism other than a nuisance ordinance, maybe have something in zoning or something that says, motor vehicles used for certain sorts of purposes will be stored, shall be stored.
Well, what I want to be careful about is getting into things that are going to be too broad. For instance, when I went home today, there were 2 different landscaping companies parked on my street with trailers attached to vehicles and sitting there, and they've got lawn equipment going out there. If you've got somebody and they're parking a vehicle in the right of way and they're out doing a job and it takes them a couple hours.
That's not what we're talking about here though, Hank. We're talking about the habitual parking of vehicles overnight. And it's not being currently used for any purpose other than just a place to park it.
You're talking about all vehicles?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I would think so.
So in the right of way, parked vehicles.
Yeah, or trailers.
All right.
Okay,
well,
so
we do have a court ordinance that speaks directly to that very thing, and it's only a problem if the vehicle is causing a problem.
Okay, well, maybe we want to rethink that because our current ordinance doesn't address the issue that's been raised.
If you want to prohibit parking, it has to be a designated no parking zone.
Okay, I tell you what, let's pick it up kind of during this next week and have some result for the council.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So council members, barring resolution of this will be on our agenda for next week to vote on the ordinance. So if you had a chance to just double check it, please do, and we'll put it up for consideration next week. Thank you, Hank.
You're welcome.
Joyce. We have our next item requiring direction.
Okay, Joyce.
I'm not good at sharing, but I did send the packet out to everyone. LBJ, oh my gosh. Beautification Committee has put together a policy that will allow trees and benches to have people honor someone by donating money for one of those. And I sent you that policy, and hopefully you all will say, hey, it's a good policy. Let's go ahead and allow people to have honorariums for the trees and the benches that we have at Jack Warren Park. Hopefully you've had an opportunity to read through that policy. If you've had any questions, I'd be glad to answer those for you. If you want to do an honorarium for a tree, the cost is $300. If you'd like to do one for the benches are $600. And if you ask why so much, we actually paid for each individual bench that we're placing out there, $653. The cost will include all upkeep and maintenance, any plaques, anything that goes along with it. So it's an all-encompassing thing. Nobody has to worry about it. And Hank, I believe Mr. Hannah will be taking care of all the trees.
Yes, he will.
Yes.
So
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Is there a limited number of trees?
Yes, there are only 13.
Okay. And then on the benches, is it on a first come, first served basis?
That's correct also. The LBC has provided a basic layout of the area to the back part of Jack Warren Park. They've identified each location for each one of the trees. All of the tree locations do not have a bench location, so that one is definitely a first come, first serve.
Councilmembers, any questions?
I've got a question. How is this going to be communicated to the public, assuming this is?
We first of all need your approval.
Assuming
Once-
it happens, yes.
Right, and once we get that, then we'll put it on Facebook in our next newsletter, you know, the whole thing that we do all the time. But we first have to get your approval so we can finalize everything before we put it out there to the public.
And in the plan, though, you know, we've got the trees in the ground already, and we're going to be installing the benches. And I think during the budget discussion, you heard some information from Ryan as far as concrete work for it. The LBC, and I made this suggestion to them, and they agreed with it, is that we got these benches sitting in a warehouse storage at this point. And the trees, for instance, we went ahead and planted the trees, and we're going to go ahead and plant the benches, because if you waited for people to come in and sponsor this, it may be years before you get any kind of enjoyment of the benches for the use or the trees. So we're going to go ahead and put them in the ground and then allow them to be able to have sponsorship opportunities where people could come in, pay the fees in honorarium or memorials, and then we would have a plaque that would either go in the tree or on the bench in honor or in memory of whoever they care to sponsor.
Hank,
Yes, ma'am.
do you have any visuals of the plaques or what that would look like on either the bench or the trees?
No, ma'am, not yet. We're going to be using the example given to us by the city of Winston-Salem on their greenways, where they have a plaque that hangs on the trees themselves from wire. It prevents them from being mowed over as landscaping opportunities go. And I think the ones that I've seen end up looking more like a bronze color, but it's not really bronze, and it's weather resistant. And it would just be a traditional announcement saying that the tree has been given in honor or in memory of someone, and then this who gave it and who the beneficiary of it is.
Okay.
We're going to be using the same company that the city of Winston-Salem uses. So everything will, you know, if they walk from one place to another, they'll all be the same. The difference will only be on the benches, because the guy came out to see what our benches look like, and they were different from the ones in the city. So he's got to do something a little bit different for those. When we get all of the
Very
information
good, but
together,
there'll
we'll
be
send it out.
appropriate recognition that's tastefully
Right,
done.
there will be.
Okay, very good.
So you're just looking for an approval or a
That's-
motion to approve this evening?
Or what,
Very
if
good.
you
Uh,
like the policy, what we're looking for, we can do a resolution next week for
Okay,
you to accept it.
thank you.
Please bring it.
Okay. Very good. And the Jane and John Welch Memorial Rocking Chairs in front of Town Hall are an example of what generous benefactors can add to the enjoyment of those who would like to just sit on our porch and rock. They can sit in the square, sit in the Jack Warren Park now on a bench, the Dr. Ken Sadler Memorial Bench. And of course, that doesn't provide you with the authority to kick people off your bench if you want to sit down and it's taken up. But I think it's first come, first serve on the seating arrangements.
Quick request for next week.
Yes, ma'am.
Joyce, I appreciate the share screen difficulties. I would request next week, however, it looks like there are at least 3 pages that the LDC put forth some effort and attention to when we're presenting the resolution. Could someone please go through and at least show the public what it's about?
I'll give it to Hank.
Thank you.
I'll give it to Hank.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
So
Ms.
did the
Walker.
mayor say he was going to dedicate a bench to me?
Only if you'll sit on it with me in your old age. We can sit out there and just chew the fat.
Or an EV charging station.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Very good, Ms. Walker. You have a request from Mr. Smith?
Yes, and I just need approval from council that they would like to have us send a letter to the ABC board that you would like to reappoint him. I can have a resolution next week if you so desire.
Any objection for Mr. Smith being reappointed? Very
Move
good.
forward.
Okay.
And you have a request from Lynn Fulton to be appointed to the Zoning Board of Adjustments.
Hank, you want to bring everybody up to date on that one? I think the mayor did earlier, but
Yeah, Mr. Fulton is applying. He had previously asked to be on the planning board. He was not lucky enough to be chosen for that. He currently sits on our utilities committee. He is asked to be appointed as an alternate member to the zoning board of adjustment. That is one position that was left open during our process. There is nothing in our, I guess, our rules or procedures that would prohibit him from serving on 2 different committees, and he wishes to serve in this to be able to help us out to fill a vacancy.
Very good. Without objection, it'll be on the agenda for next week. Okay, actions this evening requiring or items that requiring our attention and action. Jane, you have a report from our grants committee.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The grants committee that's made up of myself and David and Melissa, council members, we did meet and we had a request again from Senior Services. We do have now 12 individuals in Louisville who receive Meals on Wheels. And to make it concise, and what we had decided again was to request $9,000 again from the town for the Senior Services grant request. And I want to ask David and Melissa, did you have anything to add?
Good job.
Very good. Thank you, Jane. I'll assume that that's a motion from your committee.
Yes.
And I believe there'll be a second either by Mr. Smitherman or Ms. Hunt. Mr. Smitherman raises his hand. There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I think wheel needs an S. It's a minor thing, but
Yes.
Or
And-
maybe they're delivering on unicycles now. You just never know. It could happen.
And quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Welch, did you say there are 12 seniors currently in Louisville who are recipients? Or did-
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
so,
Last year was only 6, so, they have gotten a few more, I assume because of COVID and just the times.
yeah, our agenda says 6, so I just wanted to make sure I heard that correctly. Thank you.
Yeah, it increased.
Very good. Any additional questions?
do
If
you
not-
wanna excuse me, but do you want to clarify for her that if there may be 12 that they're servicing, but the amount that we're paying will only pay for 6?
Correct.
Okay. Very good. Any additional discussion? We have a motion and a second. Ms. Foster,
Aye.
Mr. Franklin,
Aye.
Ms. Hunt,
Aye.
Dr. Sadler,
aye.
Mr. Smitherman,
Aye.
Ms. Welch.
Aye.
Mayor's aye, that's unanimous. Thank you very much. Hank, you have an ordinance for Mary Alice Warren Community Center AV.
Okay. All right. I had sent out an email, I guess it was going on a week or so ago, detailing the situation as it relates to the budget for audio visual and our second order for furniture. Since then, the audio visual equipment has lowered in price. You will see a little bit later where we would be asking the town council to approve a contract not to exceed $123,065. We have a substitute contract for you. That price is on that contract's gone down by just over $3,000. So this ordinance is amending the capital projects ordinance of the Louisville Town Council Community Center Capital Project Fund to transfer additional funds to increase the budget for AV and furniture in an amount of, says, $52,465. Pam, can you tell us what that number would need to be now that we've got a revised and reduced contract?
Yes, now we need to only increase the budget by $49,390.
Okay.
And that's for both AV and furniture.
Correct.
Does anyone have any questions? I've got the material that I sent out in that email, and I can answer anyone's questions regarding both the furniture order and the AV order.
Okay. Council members, a footnote, we still have to consider porch furniture, but we don't have any numbers on that at this point. So we know that's coming at some future date. But this will round out all of our AV and all of our interior furniture. Thank you, Mr. Smitherman. Thank you, Ms. Welch, for all of your work, particularly on the furniture side of it. I think it's just going to be beautiful. It really is going to be nice. Any questions for Hank? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
So move.
Ms. Welch makes the motion. Ms. Hunt makes the second. Any additional discussion? Ms. Foster?
Aye.
Ms. Hunt?
Aye.
Dr. Sadler?
Aye.
Mr. Franklin?
Aye.
Mr. Smitherman?
Aye.
Dr. Sadler?
I get 2 votes.
You get 2 votes this time. You guys, I don't know what's happened, but you know, on our screen, guys are jumping all over my screen. So just about the time I figure out where you are for our roll calls, you move on me. Ms. Welch, I believe you're the remaining council member.
Yeah, aye.
Mayor's aye. That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Pam, you have the corresponding budget ordinance we have to work with.
Yeah, that will be ordinance 2021-024, and this is to amend the operating budget for the general fund to transfer the additional funds needed from the general fund to the community center capital project fund. And again, that amount is $49,390.
Any questions for Pam? Not entertain a motion. Like Mr. Smitherman makes the motion.
Second.
Mr. Franklin makes a second. I think it was Mr. Franklin. Any further discussion? If not, Ms. Foster?
Aye.
Mr. Franklin?
Aye.
Ms. Hunt?
Aye.
Dr. Sadler?
Aye.
Mr. Smitherman?
Aye.
Ms. Welch?
Aye.
Mayor's aye. That's unanimous also. Hank, you have the next item for Sage Security.
Okay. This is, we have enough, certainly we have enough money in the budget. In fact, this amount for this contract is less than the amount for the quote that we had in there for Sage Security Solutions of Morrisville. We have before you resolution 2021030. This is awarding a security contract to Sage Security Solutions of Morrisville in an amount not to exceed $53,088 and directing manager to execute the contract. Previously, we had in a quote for just over $57,000. We were able to have that reduced by reworking the proposal for what was going to be required for the community center. What we're asking for you tonight, this evening for, is to approve the contract because it is in excess of $10,000.
Hank, what was our original estimate on that? Do you recall?
It was just over $57,000.
Okay, so we have a little bit of savings here.
Yes.
Okay. Any questions for Hank?
Motion to approve.
Mr. Franklin makes the motion.
Second.
Ms. Foster makes the second. Any further discussion? Ms. Foster?
Aye.
Mr. Franklin?
Aye.
Ms. Hunt?
Aye.
Dr. Sadler?
Aye.
Mr. Smitherman?
Aye.
Ms. Welch?
Aye.
Mayor's aye. That's unanimous. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Hank, you have Mr. Powell.
Yes, last is resolution 2021-031, awarding an audiovisual contract to Clark Powell of Winston-Salem in an amount not to exceed, in this case, it has been reduced to $119,990, and directing the manager to execute the contract.
Any questions for Hank? Very good. I'll entertain a motion.
Move for approval?
Ms. Welch makes the motion. Dr. Sadler makes the second. Any additional discussion? Ms. Foster,
Aye.
Mr. Franklin,
Aye.
Ms. Hunt,
Aye.
Dr. Sadler,
Aye.
Mr. Smitherman,
Aye.
Ms. Welch.
Aye.
Mayor's eye. That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Very good. Ryan, you want to sell some items?
Yeah, there's some items behind the town hall annex where we're gonna be doing the paving and putting a new fence up, because the one we have is starting to fall down. I'll share some photos with you here. Hold on one second. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Okay, so there's three lamp posts that somebody donated. I'm not sure who that was. David says about 10 or 12 years ago. They don't match anything we have. I see no really reason to keep them. They're not in the best shape. So those are the lamp posts. And then first, does anybody have any questions about those? Okay. Okay, the next is retaining blocks. As you can see, they're pretty much is what's holding up this fence. This fence probably would fall down if you move the blocks, but we are planning on keeping a dozen or so of these blocks if we need them in the future. But the rest of them need to go. They're really heavy. David moved them by himself there. They've been sitting there for 10 or 15 years. I think they may have been in front of the dentist office on Shallowford Road. I may be mistaken about that, but I think that's where they came from.
The reason we decided to keep the block is this is identical block that you'd see, for instance, down on Shallowford Road at the Baptist Church for the retaining wall in the parking lot. It's also identical to the block that goes a little further down by the, the insurance agency and in places like that. What I was concerned with in getting rid of all of the block, that while we haven't experienced it to date, if someone should run a vehicle into one of those walls and create some minor damage, at least if we kept a dozen or so of this block, we would have enough to potentially be able to repair that or assist the DOT and repair that with a material that is identical to what could be damaged.
Any questions for Ryan?
I have a question, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Ryan, on those lampposts, are you planning on selling those like Craigslist, or do you think there's a market for them for, to get some financial gain from them?
Yeah, so that's what we're going to do. We're asking you all if it's okay. There's a GovDeals, which is a website that we can put up for auction. I don't think it'll start with an actual cost. I mean, a penny, and it'll go. Joyce, what did we say we were going to list it for? How many days? 5 days?
10. I think it's, oh yeah, the listing is 5 days, but we have to have it advertised for 10.
Right. So anybody, residents or anybody in the United States really could purchase these items.
You put a minimum bid on these things or no?
I think you can set a minimum bid. If you all want to, I guess if this is the time to do that. If you all want to do that, set a minimum bid.
Do we have any idea?
Excuse me, Ken.
I'm just wondering if we have any idea about value.
Honestly, I think that probably what somebody's going to be interested in these is the value of the material for scrap.
Now, the block, I have some knowledge about that block that's used like for retaining walls. And that's what somebody's going to use it for, I suspect.
Yes, in that case, the block is definitely that.
Yeah. So it does carry some value with it. And I think that value can be determined. I've seen those for sale from time to time. So what's the urgency? I guess you said we need to determine that tonight, Ryan. So what's the urgency?
So we have to pave this portion of the parking lot before the end of the fiscal year. And these block have to move, as well as building the fence.
Okay. So next week would be fast enough.
Yes. Yeah.
All right.
Ryan,
I'm sorry, Ms. Welch, go ahead. Ms. Welch?
oh, okay. Ryan, on the lamps again, what are those the kind of lamps that somebody could install on their property? And are they equipped for installation? Do they need some repair, or where do you see those possibly being used?
Well, they're similar to the ones along Shelford Road. They would have to have a base. They don't have bases. Somebody could use them at their own property. They're 15 feet tall, so they would probably look kind of funny in somebody's side yard.
Mr. Franklin?
Yeah, I've just got one question for Hank and or Bo on this one. Can a town council member bid on items?
I think that would be an issue for town council. Yes.
If it's gone out to public bid by some.
Wait,
Bo, is that right?
I'm asking a question here.
Yeah.
If it's a bid, can a town council member bid on either of these items that has been presented?
no,
I'd like to know that. I'm sorry, go ahead, Joyce.
yeah, I was saying, no, you cannot. A family member probably, but an actual council member or a staff member is not allowed to bid on those. And you can look that up in the thing for how Gov Deals works.
Okay, thank you very much for clarifying that. I just was interested there.
Sounds like a job for Sarah. Any other questions? Very good. And we have this as a item for action tonight. I'm guessing, are we okay to Dr. Sadler, I think you wanted to try to determine some value, but are we okay to say, yes, Ryan, go ahead and sell it, but let's get some value appraised, or not appraised, some value attached to them, so we're not selling these things at a penny?
I'm fine with approving the sale of them.
Okay, Ryan, get enough to pay for lunch for us all, okay? Very good.
Do we need any official or just the head nod from council?
Let's guys, it's gonna be a motion here right now. So Mr. Smithman makes the motion. Dr. Sadler makes a second. Any additional discussion? Ms. Foster?
Aye.
Mr. Franklin? You're muted, Fred. You're still muted. There you go. Ms. Hunt?
Give me a second.
Aye.
Dr. Sadler?
Aye.
Mr. Smitherman?
Aye.
Ms. Welch?
Aye.
Mayor's aye. That's unanimous. Thank you very much. We now move down to Ryan, street paving contract. I think you sent information out to all of us earlier.
Muted.
I said shoot. Do I need to list those streets out for everybody again?
I think you did. That was included in your memo, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I went out for bid. Yadkin Valley was the lower bid. We have $156,421.84. Are there any questions about that process?
I don't think so. Ryan, it would be great if we could at least put on TV6 or maybe our Facebook page or something that would let residents know which streets are going to be paved, which streets are going to be, I guess we're going to do some crack sealing and those types of things so that folks can expect those trucks in their neighborhoods.
Yes.
And approximately when they would arrive.
And the contractor's required, there's a certain, I think it's either 10 or 14 days that they have to give notice to the streets.
So are you asking this evening for approval of that contract?
Yes, sir.
Okay, the amount again was how much?
$421.84.
And the low bidder was Hill or Yadkin?
Yadkin.
Yadkin, very good. Council members, any questions for Ryan?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
When do you expect this to start, Ryan, and finish up?
Well, it has to be finished by the end of the fiscal year, so they're looking out 2 to 3 weeks. So it could be the beginning of June before it actually starts, but it shouldn't take that long to finish.
Thank you.
Any more
All right,
questions?
Just refresh me real quick. We have how many streets that we're actually paving and how many streets that we're doing sealing?
There's 3 streets. I'm sorry, there's actually just 2 streets that we're paving. And then there's a large portion of one of the streets. So Hunting Creek Drive will be paved, Whispering Winds Drive will be paved. And then there's a large full depth patch on Spring Forest Drive. And then there's a list, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's 12 streets that will get crack sealed.
Great. Thank you. Mr. Franklin?
Yes, I got a question for you, Ryan.
Yes.
I did not look at every single street in the traffic survey. I did sample and looked at the ones you recommend for paving. But as I was looking at that, it led me to believe that most of all these streets are in one neighborhood, interconnected and that type of stuff, not two areas.
So to get more bang for my buck, or our buck, your buck, I tried to stay with two small areas. One of them is Robin Hood Forest. And then there's another area farther up north off Skylark, which is Hunting Creek Drive. So there's Goslin, Foxhorn, and Pinecone and Rainbow are all close to Hunting Creek Drive. And then Whispering Winds Drive, which is in Robin Hood Forest. The rest of those streets are going to be crack sealed. Actually, all of Robin Hood Forest will be crack sealed.
That's what I was thinking there. Thank you.
Yes.
Looks like you got a good variety this year for the spring season. And matches up with the report that our consultant provided.
Yes.
Thank you.
Very good. Any more questions for Ryan?
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Mr. Franklin makes a motion to approve. Is there a second? Dr. Sadler makes a second. Any further discussion? Ms. Foster?
Aye.
Mr. Franklin?
Aye.
Ms. Hunt?
Aye.
Dr. Sadler?
Aye.
Mr. Smitherman?
Aye.
Ms. Welch?
Aye.
Mayor's aye. That is unanimous. Thank you very much. Ryan, you have Hills Paving next for Town Hall Annex.
So you all already, well, I guess it was in the budget last year or this year for Hills to or somebody to pave the Town Hall Annex, and Hills won that bid. So he'll be doing that here hopefully the next 2 or 3 weeks once we get the block removed.
Okay. Any questions for Ryan?
Ryan, I don't necessarily have a question about the paving piece, but you mentioned earlier about the fence. Can you remind me about the fence?
So it's a wooden fence. It's probably, I don't know what age it is, but it literally, I could probably push it over right now. It's at that point, and it just looks terrible.
So it will not be replaced. It'll just be removed.
It will be replaced. It will be replaced with a chain link fence with slats. So it will match the same fencing that's around the garbage containers at the annex.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? Entertain a motion. Mr. Smitherman makes a motion.
Second.
Ms. Welch makes a second. Any further discussion? Ms. Foster?
Aye.
Mr. Franklin?
Aye.
Ms. Hunt?
Aye.
Dr. Sadler?
Aye.
Mr. Smitherman?
Aye.
Ms. Welch?
Aye.
Mayor's aye. That's unanimous. Thank you. Hank, some telephone service for Town Hall Annex and the G. Galloway Reynolds Community Center.
Yes, I think we were talking about this at the budget time for it. Trying to consolidate our phone leasing. We were working with Charter Spectrum on the Mary Alice Warren Community Center, and our current phone lease with Windstream is coming to an end. And what we've got before you for consideration is a 3-year lease for equipment, phone services for the Town Hall Annex, and the G. Galloway Reynolds Community Center. What I discussed during the budget time also included managed Wi-Fi, and the final cost estimate for this leasing term, we removed the managed Wi-Fi in order to get the cost of the project down below our budget figure for the upcoming year. Why we are asking you for this evening is that we have a contract that is that requires a 30-day notice for Windstream to be able to terminate that notice, but we have a concern with being able to give Charter Spectrum enough notice in the contract so that they have at least 60 days prior to the end of the existing term for Windstream in order to be able to hit that crucial point to get a new phone system in before our agreement with Windstream terminates. In addition to the phone service and the phone system for the buildings, we're also going to get a fiber installation from Charter Spectrum, increasing the speed and bandwidth for Town Hall and believe it's the community center as well from 25. I don't think we've got fiber in the community center, but we're getting it in the community center. But Town Hall will get an increase from 25 megabytes up and down to 30 megabytes up and down. The overall cost of the project is, I believe, a little less or about the same, Pam, for what we're currently paying with Windstream at the moment.
That's correct. It's very close to it.
Yes.
Very good. Any questions for Hank?
Uh-huh.
Ms. Hunt? Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. When we're talking numbers, what's the very close, like what
Go
numbers?
ahead, Pam, and we don't have the figure in front of them. Tell them that with the number of the per monthly charges.
It's hard to tell until we know how the taxes and fees and surcharges shake out, but I'm expecting it to be almost comparable to what we're paying now.
And that number is?
What we're paying now is $2,558 a month currently.
Yeah.
And what we're looking at with
Go ahead.
what we're looking at with this contract is before taxes and fees, $2,023.
I would make note too that there is a lot of complicated mechanisms, nuts and bolts along with this one too. It is possible that as we move forward and execute this agreement with Charter Spectrum, that we come up with some additional items that may add or subtract to the overall cost of this project moving on. I would ask council's consideration that unless we figured that the amount of a potential add cost to the project was significant, that we be allowed the leeway to be able to work and finalize the installation of the equipment as long as the cost is de minimis or fairly close to what the existing cost is on the contract.
I think all that said, Hank, yeah.
Yeah, we don't perceive it to be a big deal.
Yeah, okay. I think that's fine because we're as long as we stay in the ballpark of our current contract, I think we probably are fine.
Okay.
Council members concur? I see heads nodding, maybe nodding off at this point. Thumbs up. Very good. Okay, Hank, we'll need or council members, we'll need a motion and a second on this.
So moved.
Mr. Franklin makes a motion for approval.
Second.
Ms. Foster makes the second. Any additional discussion?
Yes, so I wanted to ask Hank, it
Yeah.
probably will not be more than $10,000 then, right? Because won't we be restricted to not approving more than 10,000 without?
Well, the reason we brought this is because it's a 36-month lease. And the fact that even if it's $2,000 a month, if you talked about the 36 months of total payments, that was going to be in excess of $10,000. So what we're asking that we already are coming to you because the value of a 36-month lease is certainly in excess of $10,000. We're just trying to get some agreement that if there are some small movements one way or the other, council's okay with it as it goes to the process of getting the phone system installed.
I understand. All right,
Okay.
call to question.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Welch. Ms. Foster,
Aye.
Mr. Franklin,
Aye.
Ms. Hunt,
Aye.
Dr. Sadler,
Aye.
Mr. Smitherman,
Aye.
Ms. Welch.
Aye.
Mayor's aye. That's unanimous. Thank you. Hank, we're to administrative reports. You got
Yes,
First swings.
website project update. It's moving along. We have a committee that's been assigned to it. We have done a lot of good work, and we've finalized the landing page for the website redesign. We are currently getting and going over what the internal pages are like, and then the website is essentially being built as we speak. So hopefully we'll have that up and running soon, and everybody will be as happy with the progress as we are. Moving on to the Gateway project, I'm going to share.
Hank, can I ask you a favor?
Yes, sir.
For our meeting next week, could you maybe bring the screenshots of the landing page and also the pages that they've designed for us, that Tim has designed for us already?
We can do that. Yes.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Can I add on, Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
Sure. Just also, there was a survey that was done asking the public about feedback on what they wanted to see. Is that right?
Yes.
So just, yeah, like the mayor saying, the visual, but also kind of some connecting the dots of how the public has made requests and how that's being reflected in what the plans are. Thanks.
Okay.
And we also have done the analytics and are really letting, oh, it just changed. Okay. The analytics, and we're letting a lot of that drive what goes where based upon resident interest in previous pages. All that's going to kind of roll together.
Okay. All right. Excuse me for getting this graphic up for you. The next one was to talk about the Gateway project update. We had a pre-bid meeting on the 3rd. It was a mandatory pre-bid meeting, and which meant that if you didn't show up to the pre-bid meeting, you could not bid on the project itself. We, of course, have a governmental rule for local governments that if with a project of this size, we need to at least get 3 bids on the project. When we did the mandatory pre-bid meeting, we only had 2 contractors show up after the for the project. So we did a quick hustle and did a second try at the mandatory pre-bid meeting. That was today. Today we had probably 5 or 6 different contractors that showed up and were present with a virtual mandatory pre-bid meeting. It doesn't necessarily guarantee that those 5 or 6 will translate into actual bids submitted, but it's promising. You have before you the milestone dates. I think I've sent this to you by way of an email a couple of weeks ago for it, but you can see that we will end up with, I'll skip to the bid opening date on the 17th. That will be at 10 o'clock in the morning. We will take deliveries up until that point, and then we will open that up for public reading of the bids. Then we've got a scheduled for that for town council approval of the contract in June at its meeting on the 10th. And then we will, the day after on that Friday, request that the DOT has concurrence for the contract and allow us to move forward. We'll receive construction contract concurrence from the DOT, hopefully by the 18th. And then we will submit the bid certification award letter. We're anticipating that to be by the 21st. And then the pre-construction meeting will happen on the 28th or on or around. And then we're hoping that the town can issue the construction notice to proceed on or around the 12th of July. At the same time this is going on, we have been advertising for construction or for firms that can support us in CEI. That is basically construction inspection for the project. They will be our eyes and ears that will make sure that the project is installed as it is designed, and all the materials testing for asphalt, concrete, and the like will be performed and meets contract specifications as well. Does anyone have any questions regarding the Gateway project?
Ms. Hunt.
The the bid opening, Hank, is that via Zoom? What's the modality of how that will be?
That's a good question. I guess we can make that by Zoom. But we will have that. It's going to be open, I guess, to anyone who cares to get in there. We will have people socially distanced. We're going to do it downstairs in the council rooms.
Thank you.
Very good. Any questions? Oh, Hank, when will construction start?
Well, hopefully, if we're able to do that on July 12th, we were imagining probably maybe it's up to the contractor on how fast they mobilize. we could probably see that happening by the end of July, possibly sooner, after they've been given the notice to proceed.
Okay, very good.
All right, and then, yes, Ms.
Hey,
Hunt.
one more thing. And it's about a 9-month projection.
It's essentially around 8 months. It's given in days, but
Sure.
it's close to 8 months for that.
Thank you.
All right, and let me see for the
Hank, and
gateway.
as we get closer to that, let's do our best to communicate the disruption that'll occur with that project, because it is, when they get in there, you know, it's only 2 lanes right now, so folks may want to find alternate routes.
That's right.
Mr. Franklin.
Mr. Franklin.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this is the right time to ask or wait till way late when we get to council discussion, but Hank, what the heck was going on at the traffic circle in the gateway today?
That was the DOT wasting taxpayer money.
Well, I just was wondering what was going on.
That was the Division 9 maintenance crew that milled down the surface of Williams Road and resurfaced it. And the same area that we're going to do the same thing, just in short order, just a few weeks from now.
Okay, I just.
So basically everything that was taken, put back down again, we're going to take it back up and have to do it all over again. The elevation of Williams Road is going to change a little bit, and then we're going to, of course, put the median down the center. So unfortunately, I was asking our engineering firm if anything the DOT is doing out there would be of benefit, and unfortunately it's not. It's just a case where the DOT is spending some money just going to be undone very shortly.
There's a better way to coordinate these things.
That's right.
Yeah, I saw all that equipment mobilized on the side of the road yesterday evening coming in from work, and I thought, what are they going to do? And then today I saw what they were doing.
Yeah.
It just, anyhow,
All
they
right.
they still didn't get the where the water main broke right up next to the large traffic circle. It's still bumpy there. It's
Oh, is
not,
it?
yeah, it's not smooth.
All right.
Maybe our project can smooth it out.
Yeah, I hope so. Next thing we're going to give you a little update to is the Louisville-Vienna Road roundabout project. That is for, we have put out a request for letters of interest from engineering firms. That release was done on April 1st. We have got those requests for letters of interest. I think the total number that we received were from Ryan and Stacy, were that 13 firms?
14.
14
14
firms.
firms.
Okay.
Mhm.
So right now, the 3 of us have been engaged with review of those 14 firms. By Monday, we're going to shortlist it and then notify probably no more than 5 firms of the 14 that we would desire to interview them for final selection of a firm to be our engineering firm for this project for the roundabout. The shortlist announcement will be next week on the 10th. We are scheduled to have interviews the week of May 17th through May 21st, and shooting for the firm selection and notification on May 31st, with the anticipated notice to proceed on June 7th, but that is going to be dependent on the North Carolina Department of Transportation to be able to review the selection and the contract as submitted for concurrence. Our goal, of course, is to have this to proceed as quickly as possible. Our CEI process is identical to this. It's just offset by a week. Everything that I've said, we're about a week ahead of that for the CEI for the Gateway. Anyone have any questions about this? Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So do you forecast that it will be done by the time school reopens?
No, not this year. We're talking about engineering at this point, and we're going to be looking at the availability of resources for the engineering firms and how fast that they could feel like they could get the job done. That, of course, is a big part of it for the town. We have seen so far there's a lot of discrepancy between firms A and B on how fast they think they or anticipate the job can get finished.
Okay, and this was one of those projects that got bumped a year by DOT.
Yeah, unfortunately. So we've been given the authority to move forward with it, so we're trying to get it done as soon as we can.
Hank,
Yes, ma'am.
acronym police here. I know it's easy for us to just get caught up in our acronyms, but for the public watching, CEI, for example, stands for.
Construction,
Engineering.
engineering, and inspection. Yep.
Okay, anything else, Hank?
No.
Next
About
item
it.
then on
I think that's about it.
council
Oh,
meetings in
hold on. I
person.
do have one more thing. It's just looked down at my list. I promised you guys last month that we would bring forward a proposal for the potential for council to meet in person in June. We have got that test done, and what we are proposing, if council wants to move forward with this, is a hybrid, so to speak. We think we can put together a scenario where council and staff can meet in the council chambers downstairs. We will then run everything else with Zoom and Facebook during our regular meetings as modalities for the public to participate. And we ran a test this week. Everything looks like it will work just fine. The only thing we have left to iron out is public engagement during public comment and public hearing processes that we may end up having during this time. So anyone need any kind of further detail for this that if I didn't explain it close enough? Basically, we're going to end up with a Zoom camera that is pointed at the dais. We'll have certain members of the council back behind the dais like they normally speak. We will have some of those sections removed so that we get the 6-foot spacing between the council people and the mayor up at the top. Those people that are moved will be dropped down to the bench locations where the clerk and the finance officer and the town manager operate. Staff will move out into the area where the public normally speaks. So that's it. What you'll end up seeing when you're looking at this on Channel 6 or on Zoom is that the council will be sitting up facing out towards the public like they would if people were in the rooms. Staff will be out sort of in the area where the public normally speaks and addressing council. And then we will end up having presentations and someone monitoring the computer that is running the Zoom to be able to share whatever of the materials that have been shown to council will be available by Zoom. And then we'll also use Zoom as a way in which we receive public comment as well during appropriate occasions.
So if a council member chose to be remote still, does the governor's order permit that to occur now?
Does the governor's order permit the
council person to be remote? Yeah.
I think it does. It would complicate what we are proposing. I would have to figure out how that someone who is not able to be there in person for whatever reason affects the plan for how we would pull off the in-person for council part of it.
Ms. Walsh, I believe you had something.
Oh, yes. So for clarification, Hank, you're saying that the public will not be in the room. They will be coming through with their comments via Zoom.
Mm-hmm. The easiest way I could say to describe this is it's a Zoom meeting, but everybody is on one camera shot instead of having the Brady Bunch.
So I'm sorry, Jane, go ahead.
I'm done. Go ahead.
Yep.
So if normally, I guess I guess the rationale for having in-person meetings is so the public can be present and observe the proceedings. So what is the rationale for having in-person meeting if the public can't be there?
Well, there is something to be argued that the dynamic of council and work relationships with each other during meetings as well as staff has been affected to some extent through a Zoom environment. We feel like it's worthwhile investigating to see if council wants to look at it, see if there are benefits in having council and staff together, looking eyeball to eyeball at each other during a meeting and having that type of more normalized interactions. But certainly there is no difference from the public standpoint in how they access the information.
I just wonder, and I'm not really opposed to it, but I am wondering what hasn't been getting done by the current methodology and what is likely to be done in a more efficient or better manner when everybody is in the same room again. I'm just wondering about that.
All right.
I think normally it's for the benefit of the public, not for our benefit.
Right. And I don't know, Ken, if I could answer that for everyone. I think that everyone on council and at staff level would have to make a determination whether or not they see a benefit in that. And if they don't, then that's up to council. There's certainly nothing that says we can't continue as we are. I was asked to look at ways in which we may look at getting more in person. This is a way in which we can do that, still in mind with the physical limitations of the size of the room downstairs. We certainly couldn't get much more than 20 people in the room, even if you went in excess of councils coming in the room. But certainly if you had the staff and council in the room in person, Zoom still offers a better way for people in a greater number to be able to access the work of the town council until we get the actual physical number of people that can be in that room up.
Council members, let's talk about this a little bit, because if I'm understanding Hank correctly, we're considering now going to this type of format in June. So your thoughts, folks. Smithman.
I'd like to say that, and to you, Dr. Sadler, I just miss the camaraderie of everyone being together. It's sort of, I don't know, being on Zoom and not being together, to me, it's hard to necessarily know what everybody's thinking. I mean, yeah, we see each other's face and all that, but we are a group of people that do make decisions, and I just like to be together doing that instead of virtual.
Well, I guess it's a question of timing more than it is anything else. I mean, I think that invariably the group is going to be back together and into a normal setting. I just don't, I guess I'm just trying to grasp the urgency of moving forward before the public can actually be there, because that's really the purpose of that, you know, for us to be meeting is for the public to be there to have an interaction with us. Not necessarily for us to be able to look at each other and be able to interact. I mean, I understand there are a lot of sociological reasons for people to be in the same room. You know, I'm hearing from people in other venues that I operate about, well, you know, sometimes they have opportunities for, you know, conversations on the side and all this sort of thing. I understand all that, but if our primary objective is to be available to the public during our public meetings, and we're still not going to be available to the public during our public meetings, other than by Zoom, then I'm just curious as to what the urgency would be before we can have the public in the room with us who want to be there.
Council members, thoughts? Mr. Franklin.
I want us guys, the council, to be back in chambers and not necessarily be able to proxy in just due to vacation or some, you know, to make it convenient. I think Ken raises a valid question about the public portion of it. You know as well as I do that in normal settings for the last many years in our council chambers, we might have half a dozen to 8 diehards, and then the students come in, and then we have something special, and that you know, how do you accommodate all that? I guess that's what I'm trying to say. But I just think that when we do decide to go back, the council members need to be there, or you're counted absent. You know, I'm going to leave it at that for the time being.
Yeah, and I agree. I think under statute that's a requirement anyway, other than an emergency order.
Yeah, it is. Council members, Ms. Hunt, looks like you started to say something.
Yeah, so I am all about us coming back and all of us being there and the side talk and the haze and the buys and before and after. But I am concerned about the public not being a part of us coming back in. So, you know, I think that if we're going to come back, then we need to come back in with the public all in kind of one swoop. I'm not sure what it's going to do for us to come back in June, the public not be there. And then, you know, at what point will they start to filter in? So I'm kind of in agreement with Ken and Fred as well. Thank you.
Council members, Ms. Welch.
Yeah, as I think this through, of course, it's best to have the public there, and I think it won't be long when they will be. I do think it's a positive when you're working with a group of people that you can be face to face with them. And the fact that we work together, I think we'll only work together more if we're in each other's presence. My sense is the quicker we can be together, the better off the town is. And then when the public comes in as well, in due time, then, you know, it'll be back to normal. But I see the positives in being together as a group.
I do too, but and sociologically, I understand all that, but I'm back to my original statement, and that is what has suffered as a result of us meeting the way we've been meeting in terms of town business, which is what we're all about anyway.
Ms. Sutton, yes, jump in. There's a discussion.
Is there any, Hank, is there any way that we could utilize the entire town hall to accomplish what, you know, like open up the chambers to allow the public to come in small numbers, and then, you know, there's 4 or 5 conference rooms, have us dispersed. I mean, I don't know if it's going to be a hybrid and we're going to have a camera on us in a video setting anyways, and I'm just really thinking outside the box here to try to, you know, pull the public in at the same time. But it may be you know, I do agree with all the camaraderie and the sociology piece, but to me, it's going to be a little bit awkward if we're just sitting in a room and we can't see, you know, I know that we have 1 or 2 people come, but you know, I would like to be able to welcome them back in at the same time. Or
yeah, I can see your point. I think that moving into different rooms like in town hall would be more complicated than it's going to add any value to it because of the logistics for doing that. My issue as far as having even a limited number of people, I've considered putting a limited amount of people in the lobby, for instance, downstairs. We've got a set of speakers that allows the sound to be piped into it. And if you did that, and then even if you allowed a couple of people inside the council chambers to be able to do that, I would hate to get into a situation where you end up with a first come, first serve kind of thing going on, and you end up having to tell someone that you've reached a limit for the amount of people that can get in the room. And I know you come out here this evening, but we can't let you in the chamber.
But there's we could use outdoors too, Hank. I mean, like you could consider putting up a couple big white tents and having that for a couple months. Or I mean,
if we move outside, I think that we're going to get more complicated, especially with trying to use Zoom. We could do that, but it's weather related at that point. And if you had a regular town council or council briefing and you hit a rainy night and you're out there in the amphitheater at Shalford Square, it could be a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Ms. Foster, you want to weigh in?
Yeah, I'm on the fence. I hear all the logistics, and we talked about that months ago when we were first faced with the situation. Like David, you know, I've read several articles about extroverts versus introverts and who prefers Zoom and who does not. And so, yes, there is something to what's been lost, Ken, is I think some of the soft stuff. I don't know how to articulate it beyond that and convert that into something measurable, but I think there is something soft that's lost when you're working as a team, and there is not that human sociologic connection proximally. But then by the same token, if we're not able to have the public in, I can see why Melissa's saying maybe we should sort of pump the brakes if we can't figure out some way logistically to make that happen. So I can go either way. My only issue is we have now created a new standard for the public to be able to access and see. I mean, it used to be people would come to town hall and you just couldn't see what was being projected on the screen. So as long as we give the same standard of information so people can access and see it, I don't want to go backwards. And I hear you saying, Hank, that is something that is deliverable in your recommendation.
Yeah, and my final thought for this for people to consider is right now the public is not in person with us. And what I'm proposing, the public is still not in person with us. The only difference is the interaction for the council being in the same room, that sociological benefit that we might be able to enjoy, having a discussion of looking eyeball to eyeball and dealing in an in-person situation with staff and people that may be guests of ours that we may be able to allow in to address on special occasions as well.
Ms. Welch?
I'd rather compare it to Zooming with family members over COVID. It's great to see them. You can speak to each one individually, but it's nothing like being in person. Now, that is not as much an intimate relationship that you would have with council members, but there's considerable difference. You have body language, you have that eye contact, and I just think it's beneficial to have that human interaction.
Why don't we do it?
Say that again, Ken, please.
Why don't we go ahead and do it? I mean, if there's that much consternation about it and that much concern about the council being together with each other, why don't we just do it?
I don't think that's where we're at right now. I think that we're at the divide. Prior to COVID, there was a camera set up in the back of the chambers, and we conducted years of meetings and got them out on Channel 6. And we had newsletters and we had our website and everything. And we felt like we had the people informed. Now that we're going Zoom all the time and people can log in for the last 12 to 14 months, I think the last public meeting we had was in March of last year. Is this the new standard that we're going to try to live up to from now on? I don't think we can accomplish that and be a live body that conducts business. That's probably the issue, and I'm not the technological guy to figure that out. I know we want public interaction, and our chambers have got X amount of square feet. I'm not sure where we go with this, but I want us back in chambers as bad as anybody does, as far as this body is concerned.
Yeah, and the other thought too is the distractions, the technological, the technology distractions when we go into chambers. So Hank, and maybe we're just going to sit there. We won't have a computer. We'll all be individual looking at each other, but there's going to be some people down on the floor that I'm not going to be able to see, or that whoever's sitting up top's not. I mean, I'm just wondering if there's going to be we're talking about being able to connect, but at the same time, logistically, I wonder if we're all going to get there and be like, wow, like we can't necessarily see each other. So can you walk me through how that's going to look for us to be able to see each other?
Yeah, I mean, normally you've got 7 people sitting behind the dais. We're going to remove 2 of you. And we're going to put those 2 down and put 1 at each table, where Joyce and Pam sit on one side and me and Bo sit on the other. So you'll have 5 people on the backside, 2 down at the floor, and sort of in a semicircle, if you will, just like the setup is now. Staff will move out into the seating area right now where the public would normally sit, and then we probably would share a wireless mic to be able to get us where we can be heard addressing you for it. And then we'll have somebody that will be manning a laptop that will share material via Zoom that council has been given for presentation during the meetings.
in my opinion, that appears to be really just, I mean, it could, I mean, obviously, I know you guys tested it. I don't know if you tested it with as many members as we've got present on the Zoom call, but that could fairly be distracting. And that's another thing just to consider is the distraction of the setup and the technology and how smooth that will go over. I know we have to
There's not a
practice
whole
this
lot of
sometime.
technology to it, Melissa, from your standpoint. You just do your job and, to conduct what you need to do in the meeting. And microphones are hot and the cameras put on you. We still are going to be, the camera is going to be trained at EdTV, which is against the wall. So it's going to be going out to channel 6. Zoom will still work like it does right now. It's just going to be, instead of everybody in a tile on the Zoom screen, you're going to end up with a giant shot of the room and be able to see everybody present together.
Folks, let me suggest this. I think we're going to have a whole different set of guidelines in July. I think let me just ask real quickly, how many of y'all have had your COVID vaccinations? Is there anybody that hasn't? And so I think we're going to see some modified gathering guidelines from the governor in July. That's going to allow us not to have to go through these contortions to be able to get back in the same room together. David, I agree with you. I really miss all of us being there, but it sounds like we're really kind of force it to make it happen rather than let's wait a month and see if we really can't let it happen naturally and even let the public back in the meetings together. Does that work okay for everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you, guys. Good discussion.
Can I add one other thing, Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, one thing that I look forward to as well is having that printed out agenda, printed out ordinances we're looking at right there beside you, instead of trying to shuffle from one device to the other, to find that. It may just be me that would really enjoy having those printouts right there.
Well,
Just simplifies it.
I frankly, I like Zoom because I can keep my eye on all of you guys at the same time. And I can see who's nodding off, who's distracted, who's raising their hand. So I kind of like this format, but I understand too the reason we all want to get back together again, and we can do that again soon. Thank you, council members. Stacy, I'm sorry, we have.
I think that to get at Jane's concern, I think that couldn't we make those documents available in our mailboxes prior to the meetings? I mean, they had to be put together before our meetings. So couldn't you make them available in our mailboxes before the meeting so that we could get access to them if we wanted them?
Ms. Walker sends them out to us in a package, usually a day or two before the meetings.
Right.
And part of it is the ability for, I guess, individuals to have printers at home that they can print it out. But we do get that stuff should we wish to have printers to print it out. But I understand what you're saying, Jane.
No, I understand it too, but having your personal printer and having your personal paper, I mean, all of those things are an expense that, we don't, well, I don't want to get too far into it. I just think that the town could make those available to anybody who would want them.
Yeah. Very good.
Thank you.
Stacy, you got a report on the comprehensive plan update, please.
Yes, I first want to share my screen so you guys can see the new webpage that was been created. Can everybody see the town website?
Yes. Yeah.
If you go right here to this very top bar, Jeannie created this for us. If you click there, then it takes you to louisvillenc.net/Louisville Tomorrow. And this is the webpage specifically for the project, for the update of the comprehensive plan and the master park and rec plan. So it goes through and it's got some different language that folks can read. It kind of goes through our schedule. And then there's some documents. This week, there's been 2 documents that have been uploaded that people can take a look at. And then it's got direct contact to me if you have any questions. So as this process moves forward, we'll be adding different documents along the way that everybody will be able to look for. I did talk with Jeannie today, and she's going to be able to get the Zoom information up for the meeting. That's the first opportunity for public involvement. That's going to happen by Zoom next Tuesday, May 11th, from 5:30 to 7 or 7:30, depending on how long or how good our discussion is going. So I wanted to be able to show you guys that, so you can definitely go and take a look at it and read about it, look at the documents that have been uploaded so far, and kind of where we stand right now. For those of you that's watching, this is also a good place that you can go. You'll be able to find the link for the Zoom meeting for the public involvement sessions, and also when those meetings will be held and that sort of thing. So this is always a good place for everybody to go, for them to be able to take a look at that and keep up with what's going on. Also, I wanted to let you guys know that we did hold our stakeholder symposium meeting on Tuesday. It was from 1 until 3:30 in the afternoon. We had about 26 or 27 people that were able to attend, which is a good number for a stakeholder meeting. We are putting together questions for those that couldn't attend, that were on the RSVP list. And even going to try to keep reaching out to those who didn't respond in order for them to give us some feedback as stakeholders in our community, so we can always get good feedback from them. And then again, our first public involvement meeting is May 11th, so be sure to tune in to that on Zoom at 5:30.
Stace, one quick question. When are we going to have that up on TV6?
It should be on TV6.
Okay.
She's just got to get the Zoom information up there.
Okay, yeah, if we can do that, and let's increase the frequency of how that's showing, because if it's only showing maybe once an hour, that's not really enough. We really want to pump it, and I guess if we can have Stacy Howard, Facebook's been pretty active talking about this already, but let's do everything we can to get 200, 300, 400 people involved.
Yeah, Jeannie's going to take care of that as well too. I sent her an email today for Channel 6, Facebook, the website, to get all of that stuff updated, since we now have the Zoom information. And the article in the newsletter also advertised the May 11th meeting, but folks can it tells them to go to that Louisville Tomorrow webpage to find the Zoom information. So that'll be up there for them to find.
Very good, Ms. Hunt.
One other thing that you may want to consider too, Stacy, is just printing up like an 8.5 by 11 flyer for our local businesses. I know we are having some traffic in and out of local businesses, various, and that may be a way that people that are congregating in our local businesses can look at the information and then jump on as well.
Okay, sounds good.
Questions?
Very good, thank you.
Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
2 questions, Jean Marie.
Hello, Jean Marie.
Hello. So Blackboard Connect, too big or appropriate to blast?
Absolutely appropriate.
Yeah, we'll be making a call on that. Probably, Hank, Friday?
Okay.
Yeah, that was what I was just saying too. If we can get a script together, Stacy, we can get that to go out tomorrow evening or Saturday.
Okay, thank you. Second question is, I've been reviewing what was on the website. Could you pull up real quickly again, not the, where is it? The document where it's, the second one, here it is. There.
Community characteristics or at a glance?
So hold on. So at a glance, I'm looking at it up there, right? So we're having something with the council when? Ish.
I'm not sure exactly when
But
that.
sometime April through June is what I'm reading as some kind of a check-in with council. Is that?
Yeah, I have a schedule. I just don't have it in front of me. I don't know the exact date of when that would be scheduled for. It would either be at a regular meeting. We've got a calendar set up. I can email you guys and let you know exactly when that would take place.
Thank you. Second question. So could you click on the community characteristics? Thank you.
Is it going to the new page?
Yeah, it should be.
Okay.
So while this is being pulled up, my question is, it looks to me like what they're doing is they're taking the comp plan and going through the demographics and updating things for today with all the material. So, but they've also actually plugged in a SWOT analysis, or the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats.
Mhm.
So I'm curious as to, I get the whole business of updating existing conditions, right? Makes sense. They have to pull that and get that ready for, I suspect they're going to use that next week. But when they have this, the SWOTs, I mean, somebody, or I hate acronyms, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Someone populated that. Do you know how that came about and how this particular part of where these consultants are will be used next week?
The consultants are the ones who come up with the SWOT analysis just in their experience. And they have people on their team that do like market analysis, growth analysis, those types of things.
Right.
And so I believe that that's where the SWOT analysis information comes from. But most of just what this community characteristics document is just an overview of what is current in the town of Louisville for demographics, what's the existing land use, those types of things.
Right. No, I get that. I'm just saying if they've gone through the process of doing their own determination of our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, I suspect that they're going to be using that and testing their assumptions against what the community is going to be saying starting next Tuesday.
Right. And they've also had input from the steering committee.
Okay.
And then now they've had input from the stakeholders. And then starting next week, they will start gathering all the information from input from the public, from all of our residents.
Okay, thank you for that.
Okay. Stacy, question, please.
Yes, ma'am.
To Melissa's request about the flyers. Now, my understanding is the consultants would be doing that, handing them out to churches and then also the businesses. Would that not be something that they will be taxed to do?
No, that's not really in their contract. They could create the document for us, but then it would be up to us to hand those out.
But they could create it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, that might save some staff time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jane, you just brought up a really good point. I think initially when we had talked about this, we had talked about working with the various churches to get this information out to their congregations. We're now Thursday before the last Sunday before the 11th. Have we made any progress there?
I have not been in contact with the churches thus far.
Okay.
I mean, specifically the people from different churches specifically, I have not been.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna have a couple of public sessions, correct?
There will be 3 total and a public survey that will go live next week.
Okay, the sessions will be similar in nature.
But they'll kind of be 3 different ones throughout the process. So some of the questions might be a little bit different. But I mean, it's initially all the same as far as gathering public involvement for the growth of Louisville.
So I guess, I think it's great we do Facebook. I think it's great we do TV6. I think it's great we do our website, but we're only reaching about 3% of Louisville residents that way. We need to figure out a way to maybe go back to some of the old time, high touch types of ways to disseminate information. I like the flyers to businesses. That's important, but that's again, somewhat not ineffective, but it doesn't reach a lot of people. If we can engage our churches, we'll touch several thousand people every Sunday. And I truly believe the ministers will be more than happy to work with us on that. So can we, I know we can't get it done for the 11th, but for the next public session, can we figure out a way to do some high touch stuff?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
I think it'd be great.
And also, Mayor, if I can just say, that's part of the role of the stakeholders too, is to have them give us information, but also be champions out in the community. So perhaps if you've got a list of those people who've been identified and you're smiling, maybe you've already done this or you're planning on it, but blasting them and saying, hey, here's what we need from you.
Yeah, a big charge in our meeting on Tuesday was for them to help us get the word out. They come from a lot of different backgrounds, a lot of different areas of the community, and in their service to the community already. So we have definitely charged them to get that information out for us, and the steering committee as well.
Stace, have we given them any materials that they can quickly send out to the people they know, or is it just, hey guys, go out and tell people?
We have given them information about the meeting date and time and everything. So they can forward those things on.
I know I'm complicating your life and that the consultant, but I think I've said this before. If we go through this process and we only have 150 people participating, it is not a comprehensive plan review. It's a consultant driven something or other. And I don't, that's not where we want to be on this thing. So however we need to goose it, we need to goose it to really get a lot of people involved in this.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And if Stacy, I know I'm kind of belaboring the topic, but I'm definitely in agreement with Mayor in regards to for our investment and our return on investment from the consultants, and then just making sure we have a great representation of demographics, gender, age, socioeconomic class, and that type of thing. One thing that they did also mention was schools, access in the schools. And the guy also talked about potentially partnering with the schools and having the schools give out flyers to the parents. Schools coming into a wrap here in less than 30, well, probably around 30 days or so. Is that something that we can push back to the consultants and ask them to form that partner, or whomever needs to do that?
We can certainly reach out to the principals in the schools. Because of COVID, we would not be allowed to be in the schools.
Sure.
But we can definitely reach out to the staff, the administration of the schools to ask if they would, even if we were to drop off some flyers, something like that, if they could kind of hand those out.
Yeah, in my recollection from hearing, and I hear so many different things, so I may be getting this wrong, from hearing the gentleman that came in and spoke, was that they have experience with the local school, various schools that they've worked with in the past to try to pull in people. So that would probably be fantastic. Thank you for all the work you're doing on this.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Anything else for Stace on the comp plan? Do you want to touch on the parks and rec master plan?
We don't really have any documents on it thus far. They're in draft mode for those types of things. They are getting us a final just park inventory, which would be one of the chapters of the master plan next week. They're finalizing that. And so that's moving forward. That is actually scheduled to be done sooner than the comp plan, a couple months sooner than the comp plan, just because it is a little bit smaller of a document, specifically concentrating on parks and that sort of thing. But yeah, it's moving right along too. And keep in mind too, the purpose of doing the public involvement and hiring one consultant to do both plans. And so our residents are not oversaturated with all these surveys and all of these different meetings. It's just everything is kind of to hopefully be able to get in tune, everybody in tune, to be able to develop both of these plans. So the survey will definitely hit on both items for both plans, and same in the public meetings. And we took an hour in our stakeholder meeting. We took an hour to talk about comp plan, and then we took another hour and even broke up into small groups to talk about park plan things. So it was very good discussion.
And again, you and I have talked about this briefly, but our consultant recommended the time of 1:30 to 3:30 in the middle of the afternoon, when a number of people who on our stakeholder list work for a living, and it would be absolutely impossible for them to pull 2 hours away in the middle of the day to attend. So again, you and I have talked about it, and I think you need to press the consultant that this needs to be convenient for our residents, not convenient for them. And this is not business as usual for them and how they've always done it. We want a lot of people participating, and a 1 to 3 is not a great time to really get a lot of people, except those who are retired or those who aren't working, engaged. Anyway, you and I have talked about that. We're on the same page on that one.
Yeah.
Planning intern.
Yes, we have an intern. Her name is Hannah, and she is a student at UNC Chapel Hill currently. She's a junior. She is working on, currently she's just doing a minor in planning, but she's also, at the same time, she's already started, they have a program at UNC Chapel Hill that you can go ahead and take classes to start on your master's degree. And so she has already started that, and she is working on her master's degree in planning as well. So she's kind of doing both things there. She was actually the valedictorian at her school. So she is a very smart gal. I'm very pleased with the selection that we made. Hank and I interviewed about 5 different ones and was able to make a choice from that. And she starts May 17th. And she will be here, and we spoke today to try to get her schedule worked out so she can benefit from the entire 400 hours this summer before she has to go back to school in August. So
That's fabulous.
we're getting
That's
her an
great.
office made, so we're excited for her to be here.
We look forward to meeting her.
Yep.
Stacy, where's she from?
Moxville, actually.
Awesome.
She's from Moxville, so she is fairly local. So it worked out that she, pretty much will probably be able to live at home with her mom and dad and just commute a little bit into Louisville every day. So
That's great.
Great.
I think they have a Popeyes in Moxville too. She can bring us some of their famous chicken sandwiches.
I'll tell her.
Yeah. Ms. Hunt, did you have something?
I think Miss Foster had something, and then
I'm sorry, Jean Marie,
piggyback.
excuse me.
Stacy, I had an opportunity to see a couple of our board committee meetings, one of which was the planning board session. I haven't read, the minutes aren't out yet, at least that I've seen. But what came up that caught my attention is there was a request, to my understanding, to reconsider the policy that council had come up with. And I don't see I understood that was to be brought before council. Where is?
It is. Hank and I and the mayor haven't really had a chance to sit down and discuss the ins and outs of that. And so it didn't make it on this agenda, but we did have discussions about that to ask council that.
Okay. So it's forthcoming then potentially in the next.
And what policy are you asking about, inquiring about, Jean Marie? I apologize.
Go ahead, Stacy, please.
Few of the planning board folks have requested that I ask council for us to be able to stream live the planning board meetings on Facebook again.
Okay, I just was wondering what did we,
Yep. Fred, you just muted yourself.
meant to.
Okay, very good. Very good. Yeah, council members, I anticipate we'll have a lengthy discussion on that and the role of the planning board, who their constituencies really are, and why we've initially facilitated that on Facebook, and some of the concerns that we have about going to that again. But that'll be a lengthy discussion we'll have. I'm sure it'll be a spirited debate. Okay, Ms. Hunt.
Yeah, 2 things. Stacy, will Hannah be attending our briefings and our regularly scheduled meetings during her tenure?
She will. Some of them, I don't know that she'll necessarily be at all of them, because I want her to be able to attend planning board meetings as well. And 4 night meeting a month is what I attend as the planner, would eat into her 400 hours quite often. And so I want her to be able to utilize that time with learning experience, stuff like that. So she will be at some, but I don't know that she will be at all of them, especially if we have items on the agenda. I would want her to attend those, but we want to utilize her hours as best as we can.
Thank you. And then the second thing, Mayor, when we get an opportunity, I'd love to request a break, please.
Very good. Let's do this one last thing before we go into our agenda. And Ms. Walker, you're going to remind us that we have a budget session that should convene sometime after midnight or so. And we have it planned. We'll see where we are in just a little bit. Okay, folks, it is, what time is it now?
8:25.
8:25. Let's take 10 minutes real quick. Is that okay for everybody? Very good. Ladies and gentlemen, home, we're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. It's 8:25 now, back at 8:35. Okay, folks, we're back. Thank you for taking a break and allowing us to take a break. It was well deserved and well needed, probably more well needed than deserved. Moving in the agenda for next week, Any questions about our consent agenda? Obviously, that's just our financials and our briefing minutes. Ms. Walker, anything you want to add about briefing minutes and county council minutes?
I'm working on the ones from the 1st and the 8th. I've sent a lot out already, but I'm still working on others because they're a little bit long.
Gotcha. I know.
You're muted, Mayor.
My computer. No surprises in our financials.
No, we're in good shape.
That's great. My presentation, I believe we're going to have a new officer or a new lieutenant introduced to us who's over community policing. Hank, is that correct?
That is correct.
And then PJ will give his report. We have a proclamation for Volunteer Firefighters Day, which is pretty straightforward. We're going to have an appointment for Eileen Lee to the Louisville Beautification Committee. That's fabulous. Always like it when folks are participating on the boards and committees. I'm just running through these pretty quick, folks. If anybody has any questions or wants to discuss them, please just jump in and stop me. We do have a public hearing. Stacy, you want to talk about, I know we've talked about this a little bit, but it's our trees and our street trees.
We have, first and foremost, the background for this is we have a lot of issues in our neighborhoods and developments that have curb and gutter and sidewalks and even ribbon pavement when street trees, which are a requirement of developments, when they're planted too close to the edge of pavement, then in years to come, when the trees mature, they create trip hazards, safety hazards for cars when they overhang into the travelway. And it becomes costly to the town as well whenever those trees have to be either taken out, replaced, the sidewalks have to be replaced, roads, that sort of thing fixed. So in working with the Louisville Beautification Committee, we came up with some different standards and some changes to the ordinance to require setbacks based on the size of tree at maturity, either small or medium variety tree. They took a list at our tree recommendations and we were able to update that through the Louisville Beautification Committee. And then also we want this to be a requirement that is in the forefront of developers' minds instead of an afterthought. We want them to know where they want to place these trees up front. So when they go to design the streets, when they go to design where the driveway cuts are going to be, utilities, all of those sorts of things, street lighting, the trees are what won't interfere with those things. It can kind of all be planned out prior to the subdivision being approved, rather than the houses are built, the driveways are in, the utilities are in, so now where do we have a place to find to plant a tree? So that's a quick run through of what those regulations are. I believe the text amendments are in your packets that you can review as what the additions are and what some of the changes are in that UDO text amendment.
Very good. Thank you, Stacy. Any questions for Stacy? Mr. Franklin.
Got to get unmuted here. Stacy, I guess I'm trying to figure out where I want to start here, but the new Conrad Farm development, they have actually completed several sections of that development. And I know that they had asked for waivers of driveway cuts and or the sidewalks until they got construction done. But yet these certain sections, they've come in, they've got the street lights, there's the tree plantings. How does this ordinance potentially stack up 20 years down the road to the ordinance that was in place, if you will, when the development, I can't call the name off the top of my head, at the end of Grainland Drive, where we're having current sidewalk problems because of street lightings and so forth? A comparison there might be good, between those two developments. And I don't know if you've ridden down in Conrad Farm lately, but they do have some of it in a finished state, if you will.
Yeah.
Grown in, it's planted.
Okay. Essentially, whenever if the past developments up until now that have been approved, they just have to put a street tree somewhere within the right of way, one tree per 45 foot of linear feet on both sides of the road. PRD, planned residential developments are they're a little bit different, but essentially just a normal major subdivision, that's the requirement. This goes a little bit further. So if it's a small variety tree, they have to plant that tree a minimum of 4 feet off of the edge of pavement, either the ribbon pavement if curb and gutter and sidewalks are not required, or off the sidewalk if the sidewalk is required. That is what the Louisville Beautification came up with, because based on the maturity at height, that should be enough room for root growth for the tree to maintain a healthy tree and also not interfere with the sidewalks. If they build a medium variety tree, which would be a tree that at mature height would be between 30 and 50 feet tall, they have to be set back 6 feet from the sidewalk. And we are no longer going to allow large variety trees, which would be a tree taller than 50 feet at maturity, to be planted because those root structures are just way too big. And if you set those back far enough, they would be outside of the right of way, and they wouldn't be really counted as street trees anyhow. So that's where the main differences come in. So we can try to limit these issues in the future. Does that answer your question, Mr. Franklin?
Yeah, somewhat. I understand where we're trying to go with this. I guess my question is, has the staff evaluated if the new plantings that I've described over in Conrad Farm meet the intent of where we're trying to go with this code, this new ordinance and this modification? Is that currently meeting it? Or are they planning to the old one? But yet I see what I'm seeing. Have you ridden down through there and seen what they've got and how it matches up is my question to you.
I have, but I haven't specifically measured how far they're set back. And that when that development was approved, it was approved under an old ordinance. So these requirements would not have, they're kind of grandfathered. They were approved under the old ordinance, so these would not apply to that. We did ask, there's a few developments that have recently been approved. We have asked them to go ahead and try to adhere to these with, the assumption that this text amendment will get approved, just simply so that, they can go ahead and kind of get ahead of the game and not cause the issues down the road, to kind of help us out, even though this is not approved yet, if they would still kind of abide by them.
Thank you.
Stacey, I do understand they're getting ready to open another section of Conrad Farms. And so maybe a conversation with those guys, even if I'm sure we're going to pass this, but maybe not in time for them to open that section 3. But if they can be aware that this is coming at them, they may be able to act accordingly.
Sounds good.
Any questions for Stacey? All righty, we have a technical review. Hank, I have you on here, but it really should probably be Stacey. Technical review for the Solon development case.
Mm-hmm. So we've been talking about this quite a bit here recently and over the last few months, in hopes that we will have a vote next week on May 13th. This is the site plan. Can you all still see that? No. Oh, did I not? I'm not sharing my screen anymore, am I?
There we go.
Oh, can you see it now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So this is a site plan. It is for a 39-unit multifamily building with a restaurant included. The things about this site plan, again, from the previous one had not changed. The elevations were the only thing that changed from the prior submittal. I can go into whatever detail you'd like me to go into. If you have any specific questions, we can talk about those. The technical review is scheduled for May 13th, next Thursday.
Any questions for Stacey? Okie dokie. Thank you. You can unshare, please. Hank, under new business, resolution 2021-028, to receive comments on the budget. Hank. There you go.
Sorry, I was muted. Funny how that thing works out that way. All right, let's see.
And this would be for the public hearing, setting the public hearing on our budget.
That's correct. We're going to do that resolution, and that will be for the specific purpose to set the public hearing on that.
Very good.
Public hearing would be in our June meeting.
Okay. Any questions for Hank on our public hearing on the budget? Ms. Walker, we need to collect taxes.
Excuse me, this is something that we have to do every year officially, since the Forsyth County tax collector collects taxes for the town. So this will be on the agenda for next week.
Very good. Council members, any questions or comments on the agenda? We will then ask for approval. We're going to add the, we'll consider the ordinance for abandoned and hazardous vehicles. We're going to add the bench and tree honorarium. We're going to add Mr. Smith's appointment to the ABC board. We're going to add Lynn's appointment to the Zoning Board of Adjustments. And council, if we could, I'd like to just have a brief discussion or a brief review of our social media policy. We haven't kind of gone over that in a while, and I'd like to become a little more familiar with it. And Joyce, we do have that, that I believe we passed it a year or so ago, 2 years ago, possibly.
You want me to send that out to everybody?
Would you please? And let's just have that. We don't have to vote on it, but it would be nice just to have a brief discussion and update on it so we all know where we are, particularly when we're all relying on social media so heavily these days. Council members, any additions that we've missed? If not, we'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda for next week. Mr. Smith makes the motion. Dr. Sadler makes the second. Any additional discussion?
Oh, I was just thinking, Mayor Horn,
Yes, ma'am.
what about the sheriff's report?
Sure. Yeah, PJ will do the sheriff's report. I'm sorry, Jane, I probably went over that too quickly. He's will be introduced to the new lieutenant over community policing, and PJ will give his sheriff's report.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Any additional discussion? We have a motion and a second. Dr. Sadler,
Aye.
Ms. Hunt,
Aye.
Ms. Welch,
Aye.
Mr. Franklin, Ms. Foster,
Aye.
Mr. Smithman.
Aye.
And I think that's everybody. You've all moved around on me. Good. The mayor's aye. That's unanimous. We have our agenda for next week. Council members, before we go into a closed session, any items that you wish to discuss at this time?
Got a question for the manager, or Ryan, on the bulky items. Where are they in that process of picking up?
Thank you.
I have been on them every single day. They're having technical difficulties. They've either had truck problems or they've had individuals being sick. They are on, supposedly they are done with the Monday through Thursday route, and they're only only have the Friday route left. It looks like there's a lot of stuff still out there. I have either been emailing or calling Waste Management every day and stay on top of them. I apologize. And there is a lot more stuff this time than I have seen in the past. That's not an excuse.
Well, they haven't had one of these in a while, but is your trash pickup day the normal day they would pick up your bulky items as well?
That was the plan, yes. So they started with the Monday route and they're working their way to Friday.
Well, they haven't done the Wednesday route yet, I can tell you that, because in my neighborhood, the people still out here have stuff on the street, and our trash hadn't been picked up yet.
That was not. I asked him about the bulky today, the gentleman from Waste Management, and he said that they had a truck flip over, I believe. So I don't think they got done with trash today. So and we've let residents know just to leave their trash cans out until it gets picked up.
Yeah, our trash day was yesterday. And
I think the truck actually flipped over yesterday.
Okay, because they haven't been picked up today either.
Okay.
Okay, all right.
And so you're notifying the public through the media to let them know, because I know this is just, people are asking.
Right. And I'll reach out to Jeannie tomorrow and have her post something on
Thank you.
Facebook and let them know that, sorry for the delay.
On those blocks we were talking about earlier for the retaining wall, I looked, Lowe's actually has those blocks. The 12-inch block, length, 12-inch long block, they sell it for $1.99. So some number, I don't know if it's half that or what that number would be. If those blocks are 16 inches long, then they're $3.98 each. So we just have to decide we want to charge, half of the new price or 25% or whatever. But that's what I see on Lowe's website for those particular items.
Okay, so are you suggesting that we set the lowest bid at like $200? Would that suffice?
You got 100 of them?
There's 98. I believe there's, Joyce, I gave you the number. I don't have it in front of me. I believe it's about 98, but we're going to keep 12 of them. So we'll just say 75.
Okay, so I'm just saying that, you're not going to charge them what they'd buy them for a new. If they're the 12-inch length blocks, then they're $1.99. I would say $1. You probably have the little white pegs that hold them together, I guess. I don't know whether you do it.
They're not with them.
Okay, so then the blocks then are just $1.99, so $1 each, 75 bucks. If they're 16 inches, then you're talking about $3.98, so $1.50 probably per block would be reasonable.
Thanks, Ken.
And
We'll
then just see
take a
what
look at it.
Yeah, see what happens.
Yeah, we'll look at it.
Anything else, council members? Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to go into closed session here shortly. We do not anticipate having any type of vote coming out of that session. We do want to remind you that we will, after our closed session, we are scheduled to have a budget meeting. I will predicate that comment on just how long the closed session goes. If we're lengthy in the closed session, we may postpone the budget meeting until, Hank, Joyce, when is our next scheduled meet? Is it Monday?
It is Monday.
It is Monday. So if we run long in our closed session, we'll postpone that budget meeting until Monday. But other than that, we don't anticipate taking any actions when we come out of closed session. Bo, will you please read our reason for going into closed session?
Yes, sir. This would be pursuant to North Carolina General Statute, Section 143-318-11A3 and 5, A3 being to consult with an attorney employed or retained by the public body in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege between the attorney and the public body, which privilege is hereby acknowledged, and A5 is to establish or to instruct the public body staff or negotiating agents concerning the position to be taken by or on behalf of the public body in negotiating the price and other material terms of a contract or proposed contract for the acquisition of real property by purchase, option, exchange, or lease.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Bo. We have a motion, please, to go into closed session.
So moved.
Mr. Smither makes the motion, and I'm sorry, who was the second? Ms. Welch makes a second. Any discussion? Ms. Hunt.
Aye.
Dr. Sadler.
Aye.
Ms. Welch.
Aye.
Ms. Foster.
Aye.
Mr. Smitherman. David, are you frozen in time?
I was, but aye.
Okay, very good. Mr. Franklin, did I get you already?
No, sir.
Very good. Mayor's aye. We are going to closed session. We'll pause here just for a minute. We're out of closed session. So now
10:23.
8:23. We are back on TV.
10:23.
10:23.
10:23. We're back on TV. Council members, is it your preference to put off a budget discussion or to go ahead and have that this evening?
What's left on the discussion?
Yeah, what's left?
We have three items. We have capital reserve funds, which won't take long. We have capital project funds, which is basically Pam is proposing, or Pam is sharing it's in the budget for that. And then we have a fee schedule. And those are the only three things we have left.
Well, the good news is we would probably be really low in terms of our interest in having any pushback and discussion.
Yeah.
We would sail right through it, people.
I have to tell Fred, the reason I was laughing is because Ryan and I bet today that it would be a 4-hour meeting, and I said that it would be, so he has to buy me breakfast in the morning.
Yeah.
Let's make it Monday then.
Well, if we.
Okay,
hit-
folks,
we
what's
hit
your-
4 hours, if
What's your
we
pleasure
hit
on, what's your
4 hours,
pleasure on the budget?
It's time to quit.
Time to
Yeah,
quit?
Make it Monday.
I got to be at work at 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm gonna-
Monday.
Okay, Monday, I think we got the Monday thing. So ladies and gentlemen, we had intended to have a budget meeting this evening, but we're going to postpone that till Monday.
What
Ms. Wal-
time, please, Mike? Is
I
it
believe
5:30 or
6 o'clock.
It's always 6
Yeah,
o'clock.
6 o'clock.
We
and
had a
we,
5:30
we've-
though
This is
recently.
already a budget meeting we've had scheduled, so we don't have to advertise it. Hope you folks will join us for that budget meeting. If not, council members, any other business to come before us this evening? We'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Dr. Sadler makes a motion. Ms. Hunt makes a second. Ms. Foster is missing her hair. Any further discussion? Ms. Welch,
Aye.
Dr. Sadler,
Aye.
Ms. Hunt,
Aye.
Ms. Foster,
Aye.
Mr. Smitherman,
Aye.
Mr. Franklin,
Good night.
Mayor's eye, and we are adjourned. Thank you.